Okay, welcome to the regular council meeting. The date is Tuesday, May 5th, 2026. Time is 7 p.m. With that, I'll call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda, or second item is the adoption of the agenda. The one change I'd mentioned it, our CAO has asked that an on-table item to discuss the fire truck. Will be giving us a verbal report. We could put that in under staff if council is amenable to that.
8.1.5. 1, 2, 3, 4.
We put it to 8.1.8. Put it right up front if we can, just to get it out of the way. Okay, do we have a mover for that?
Sure.
Well, second. All in favor?
Go ahead. No changes as well.
Yeah. Sorry.
Changes, additions.
Yeah, I just thought we'd get that one out of the way.
Yeah.
Okay, any other changes?
So that one's in.
So while we're doing on table, the on table item from the baseball working group. You guys got it on the weekend. I sent it earlier today as a reminder. So I'm gonna present that.
6 o'clock, so I haven't really had a chance
Okay.
yet.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But you got Norma sent it to everyone on Sunday.
Is it pressing and imminent?
Yeah, well, I was asked to bring a report on the baseball working group. So I have.
Are those minutes?
They refer to as notes, chair's notes. We don't do that group, doesn't do minutes, they do chair's notes.
Yeah, they do chair's notes.
So.
Is there an agenda?
Okay, do we have a mover for that?
If I may on this one, Mayor, Councillor Abbott speaking later on the same topic. He's going to speak in the paper. It's the same thing to me.
Yeah.
In this unique situation, Councillor Abbott.
Okay, so
And I have some amendments, so I'd be fine with that. We can go through the words.
I don't think we need to put it formally on then.
Fine. Thank you, Mayor Barry. I have some changes.
Everyone fine with that informal? Cause I think we.
Informally,
talked
yeah.
about not putting on
Consensus.
table items unless they were pressing.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor McLaughlin?
So sorry, these are, we can put it
No,
on table.
you're gonna speak to it and, it's not coming on table because it's, we agreed on the last time, I think it was Councillor McLaughlin that put that forward.
Substantially gonna read it, Councillor.
Okay, all right, Councillor McLaughlin.
Couple of things. The first one is item 4.3. Mrs. Montferrat to speak as a delegation. I would move that to public participation and call that 3.1. The next one would be,
Why don't we do these one at a time?
Is that
We've
limited?
got a delegation, why would we?
there's no paperwork to support anything.
Okay, Eric, any problem with that? No, no,
I'm happy to have a vote, Mayor Barry, on this one.
okay,
Go one by one.
I can speak to that.
Okay, Mr. Blackwell,
From what I understand, there is no paperwork. It's just a verbal presentation to council. There's no obligation to provide paperwork. So it can just be a verbal delegation. There's no obligation around that. But the decision is council's.
okay, yeah.
So Mr. Udo is here and we have a copy of the delegation application that he submitted in the time frame that is required to present the delegation to council. And from my experience, previous council and this council, that you don't get 10 minutes unless you go through this process. So I would second Councillor McLaughlin's suggestion that it goes into public participation at this point and come back to us.
Yeah.
If necessary.
Before we call the question, discussion, any comments?
So basically we're limiting it to 2 minutes, is that right?
We're limiting it to 2 minutes. Okay, I don't have a problem with if she's willing to go for a delegation. I don't see why we wouldn't allow someone to speak. We've had many people and we've got a volunteer and she's actually on the infrastructure committee to knock down a volunteer to 2 minutes when they're asking for 10. I don't get it, but we'll call the question. All in favor of striking this from the 10-minute delegation?
To the public participation.
And some latitude on
Yeah,
the
so
time.
we're striking it from the 10-minute delegation. All in favor?
And some latitude on the time she speaks.
Well.
We indulge
the-
other
the-
residents more than
the-
2 minutes.
The speakers are 2 minutes times five. Five speakers, 2 minutes. So all in favor of striking the delegation? Opposed? Okay, motion carried, the delegation is struck.
And to move to the public, thank you. And my next one would be,
I've got one as well.
yeah,
Okay, Council Broughton,
Well, go ahead, I was setting.
thank you, on the action log, which is item 7.3, that we add a new item, which will be called 376. And I've spoken to the director as well. And it'll be today's date, and it'll be monthly update on water metering project, and it'll be done by the DOO and marked in progress. And the next piece would be the councillor report, Bear Smart by Councillor Abbott, which is 8.3.1. If I could move that to in front of 8.1.2, which is the staff Bear Smart report, I prefer to hear the councillor first and then staff. And those would be my changes, suggested changes.
okay, do we have a second?
Second,
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Chris,
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, any other? Yep, Council Broughton.
Yeah, I'd like to move 8.3.4 just ahead of the budget discussion. Because I'm requesting a material change to the tax rate. And I think it would be challenging to discuss the pass rate or to discuss the change after we've dealt with the tax rate. So if we could deal with that first, 8.3.4 as probably, I guess it would be
7.1 and 7.1 goes down.
becomes 7.1A, let's call it. And leave 7.1B or whatever you like.
Okay,
Okay.
7.18. Okay, do we have a seconder? Okay, all in favor?
Sure.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, any other items? Okay, all in favor of the agenda as adjusted?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
opposed, motion carried. Mover was Councillor Broughton, second Councillor McLaughlin. Here. Okay, we'll go right to public participation. Anyone in the gallery wish to take the podium, speak for a couple minutes? No, okay.
No.
It's just, hold on.
Your delegation. Your special.
Okay, just online, we're going to the gallery first, then we'll go online. And the protocol is 5 speakers, 2 minutes per person. And please announce your name, and so everyone in the
Okay.
gallery.
I thought, never mind. I must admit, I just heard about this afternoon. I'm not very good. I should keep better tabs on things. It just seems to me that if the goal is to really have fewer cars coming in and taking up parking spots, et cetera, people, because we are indeed getting overwhelmed, it seems counterproductive to me to take the resident spots and turn them into paid parking. And then the residents don't have anywhere to park, and the residents are paying taxes to hopefully get a residential parking spot. It just doesn't seem to make any sense to me. I had a firefighter over at my house today, and he was telling me that it's a pretty tricky, I'm talking about Sunset Drive, by the way, I should have said that to begin with. It's pretty tricky with paid parking to get because paid parkers, he said, tend to not be as careful about parking, and they're sort of sticking out in the road and everything, to get support services up safely to this narrow street, which is Sunset Drive. You know, in terms of resident parking, it is an issue when you have obviously a tourist attraction and everybody wants to come to it. And for us, just regular people who just want a place to park their darn car and have people over for lunch or whatever, what with people selling their driveways and putting cars on the street and making money from that, the rest of us there's no parking. Plus, I think it's very interesting that they're going to, from what I gather, have paid parking from 7 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock at night. So what does one say? Please, you can't come for lunch anymore, because unless you like lunch at, say, 9:30 in the evening, it just sort of strikes me as ludicrous that I pay taxes to support myself having one spot, and who, that time, 7 till 8, nobody can come because they won't have parking. Doesn't make any sense. I can't even clean up my garage because I can't put my car in the street because I don't want to be paying for parking. You know what I mean? Here I am, just muddling around in my garage and I'm paying for parking. The whole thing just doesn't strike me as being safe. It doesn't make the street any safer. It doesn't give those of us who want to have pals or whatever over a place to park. It makes more and more kids playing and stuff, more and more people, cars, congested, and I just don't get it, frankly. What we should have is to limit the number of cars coming in. When the parking's gone, the parking's gone. Last weekend, they put up all the parking spots are filled. Do you know what? You need somebody there in a spiffy little fireman uniform or bylaw uniform. You just say, gee, I hope you have a wonderful time. I'm so sorry, but today the park, in a friendly way. But you know what? There's no parking.
Thank
And
you
so-
very much. I'm
I'm
sorry to cut you off.
That's it,
We're
sorry, that's it.
a little over
Oh, I'm
2 minutes, but
I got
thank you for that comments, very helpful. Anyone else in the gallery before we go online?
Yeah. Right.
Thank you.
How's it going? My name is Jahan Shabbatpour. I own the 75 Sunset Drive house. We do actually rent driveway for parkers. And I do agree with Judy in terms of giving away the spot doesn't really help the residents. My major issue is I just signed a lease with a tenant because we have a rent per unit, and he has a work truck and he works on DI. Well, he works here, but he lives on DI, and his wife and kids are there. So there's no way for him to drive his work truck up the driveway. And I said that will give him a pass to park up front, because one of the spots that he's want to turn is actually right in front of our house. He leaves on the weekends, takes the ferry, so the truck's gonna be there from Friday night till Monday morning, right? So I'm just not understanding the whole turn it into a pay spot. I think you wanna do that is great, but residents can't use it because it doesn't make sense. We pay taxes, right? And to restrict us for the low revenue those spots are gonna bring in is just not making sense, right? That's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Next.
Good evening, council. My name is Hugo van Hoogstraten. I live next to Johan at 80 Sunset Drive. I'm a parent of very young children. Our street gets overrun by cars going out, cars going down. Very efficient, and there were a lot of recommendations that have been put forward. For example, the gravel pit. I'd love to see that operationalized through the ministry. And there's challenges to divert parkers. I'd like to use the analogy of the highway. Many of you may remember the old highway. 2 lanes, it was made 4 lanes, if we make it 6 lanes, 8 lanes, there will always be more traffic. If we pave the Lions Bay culverts, make more visitor parking available for hikers, they will just keep coming. This is not a solution what's been proposed. I'm a little bit disappointed. I know there was a lot of objectives around transparency and consultation. I heard about it on the weekend, on Sunday. I concur with the earlier statements, having guests over, visitors. I do a lot of home construction, renovation. Sometimes I do have to move my vehicle. My son is saving up for a new bike. He makes a few extra dollars. Hikers are always happy because they are going back and forth, going up to the south side of Sunset Drive, zooming around corners, safety implications for my young children. So I would like to see the proposed change to make it visitor parking cancelled. That is my request from council. I look forward to contributing to alternative and better solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the gallery?
Hi, Eric Ballock, 60 Sunset Drive. We've been tolerating the parking lot above us, and I understand that that was part of the deal. But we're dealing with things like trespassing and people speeding up and down through that parking lot. There have been verbal assaults on me and my friends, Hugo here as well. It's not something we need this year. I'd please appreciate it if this was not to happen, because it's gonna make it worse. The proposed areas that are also in question are areas that people are walking up and trying to avoid traffic coming up and down. It's gonna make it more dangerous if we add more cars to the sides of the roads. Also, in front of Johan and Hugo's houses, that culvert area is actually sloped away so much that it's dangerous and difficult to park there. People will be parking more on the road. That's already a congested area. This is not something we need. This, again, the small amount of revenue that this will generate needs to be rectified ahead of time before we actually go ahead with this, if at all. Because I don't think it's a great idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the gallery? Okay, Eric will go online.
Yeah, we have some Nolan handled.
Okay,
Let's see. I'm trying to promote her. And it's like Ms. Monthread is also in the gallery. Ms. Nolan, can you hear us? Ms. Nolan?
She was speaking, I think you muted her.
Oh, I muted her again.
She can unmute herself. You know.
No.
Leslie, why don't you unmute yourself and talk?
I'm trying to.
There you are.
Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you.
Hi, thanks very much. I just want to add my name to the concerns about parking. I think I've talked about this for a few years now. I was on the parking committee under Mayor Carl Burr in 2016, and this is a longstanding challenge, and I realize it's an income stream for the community. And since COVID, we've seen so many more people interested in our community. But like Deep Cove, that had some real challenges, we too are facing those challenges. And in 2013, Deep Cove opened up a conversation that was a full day. They had a facilitator, and it brought all people from the streets of their community to talk about practical solutions that weighed the income from parking and closing certain streets. I mean, we have Lions Bay Ave that is a closed street, resident parking only, and I think there are other streets that need to be considered. Mine's not one. Isle View there's lots of open parking there, so I don't have a vested interest in this, but I do believe we shouldn't wait till some child gets killed, someone's pet gets killed, before we address this. I'm a prevention-minded individual that I think we can solve this problem. I just think we've gone a little too far over letting visitors deem what our bylaws are, and resident taxpayers are not part of that conversation. And I think it's time to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Aaron, speaker.
Ms. Monfred, I'll ask you to unmute yourself. Ready that.
You may not be speaking to this topic.
Where did she?
Or it's not.
Hillary, if you can hear us, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I just came on today. My name is Hillary Monfred. I'm a resident of the village, and I'm also a professional transportation engineer. So looking at parking issues and transportation demand management in similar situations is a lot of what I've done in my professional work. I think that it's really important, first of all, to hear the concerns of residents that are directly impacted by the seasonal demands on the village parking and transportation infrastructure. I think that kind of skip ahead because we all know what the issues are. And right now we're talking about the trailhead at Sunset, but I think that without a coordinated approach for the village wide parking supply and a real understanding of what the supply is and demand, we're going to be kind of chasing this parking issue around the community as we kind of do each summer, right? Right now it's the trailhead. In a few weeks it'll be the beach, and once at Kelvin Grove, and once the beach park is open again, we're going to be having issues with the parking there as well. So and just the traffic going down there and trying to park. So I think that we really need to look at a coordinated approach for parking as a whole in the village, as well as the other transportation infrastructure, right? Our streets are our largest shared public space that we have in a community. That's true in every community, but in Lions Bay, we have quite a bit of flexibility, right? We have a lot of space between the houses. We have, residents have space for their vehicles on site. And we have to think about how we're using that public space efficiently and effectively for residents. We have to kind of put as much care into how we think about our streets as we did into how we think about the beach park as being a shared public space and a shared public asset for the community. So I think that my kind of ask and suggestion for the village is that we look at a coordinated approach to parking, and we integrate into that an active transportation plan. For a lot of people, the last mile of their trip in Lions Bay might not be in vehicle. Like, we're looking at parking as a whole. We're going to see that maybe there's more efficient places for people to park than at really tight corners right by the trailhead. And people are willing to walk, but there aren't necessarily safe routes to walk. So the parking spot is one thing, but the actual connectivity, that's where we start to look at transportation as a whole. And that's what we need to do for the village.
All right, thank you very much for that, Hillary. Appreciate your feedback. Any others online there?
Yeah, we have Jan Schneider.
Okay. Jan, if you can unmute yourself. Sorry, we can't hear you, Jan.
Okay, there we go. Okay, great. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Basically, over the weekend, as you may or may not know, I saw on the news that there was a horrific accident involving electric kick scooter in Burnaby. And I did some research, and basically the research says that some communities in British Columbia are testing the use of electric kick scooters on the public roads. And basically, to keep it short, kick scooters are allowed in community.
Jan, you've gone quiet or mute.
Lost him completely.
We've lost you. Okay, I think Jan's referring to the scooters and how they zip around, and just to add to that, I know I've gone through through Stanley Park at times and been going about 60K, and scooters are keeping up with me. So there's certainly a concern, and there is some other towns that are looking at them and looking at regulations.
I can just speak at the LMLGLA. I believe it was the municipality of Burnaby that put forward a resolution to take to UBCM for a coordinated approach to scooters, because what you can do in one community, you can't do in the other. So if you're going from New West to Burnaby, the rules are different. So this is kind of a provincial thing, and it is going to be addressed. Hopefully it'll get some traction at UBCM.
Yeah. Jan, thanks for those comments, and I'm sure staff will look into that and follow up on it. Anyone else there?
No one's back. There's another iPhone here as well.
Okay, the final speaker, if there is one.
Hi, it's Stephanie Levitt.
Yes, Stephanie, go ahead.
Hi, I'm up on Mountain Drive. I was wanting some clarification on why is it that we're adding parking? I don't understand the motivation. Is it for money for the village, or is it to accommodate more hikers? What was the incentive to add more parking in the first place?
Stephanie, I think it'll be addressed later on in the meeting, but staff has put together a report and they'll speak to it. But anything you want to add quickly before?
No, it was a council request that staff come up with options for increasing parking
Okay,
to deal with the demand management.
Stephanie will address it later in the meeting in more detail. But thanks. Do you have any other comments you'd like?
Yeah, I would just like to say that I was up on the trail on Friday, May 1st, which would be considered the beginning of the season. And we've got lots of hikers. I don't think we need to increase. When I got up to Tunnel Bluffs, it was like an anthill up there, and that was on a Friday. So the weekend was even busier than that. So the amount of hikers that we have on the trails currently, I don't know that we should be environmentally trying to add more hikers to what we currently can support right now. So if it's a matter of accommodating more hikers, I don't think that's a good plan. As a resident of Mountain Drive, we're impacted 5 months out of the year, any sunny day, every single weekend. This is one of the few straight streets that residents have for elderly people to walk, jog, kids to learn how to ride the bikes, walking dogs. I'm adamantly opposed to adding more paid parking for hikers. It feels like we're paving paradise to put up a parking lot.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, thanks for all the comments from various residents, and we'll move on to delegations. Peter Schultz, is he online there?
Yes, he is. Yeah, looks like he's unmuted himself.
Okay, Peter, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Nope, I'm on mute still. Good afternoon, everyone. Are you hearing me clearly?
Yes.
Thank you. This is an update on the project to preserve the BC Rail trackway between Squamish and 100 Mile House, which has been notification was received in July 2025 for eventual discontinuation by Canadian National. I already gave a presentation in February 5th to Village Lions Bay Council. This is an update on highlighting some of the things that have occurred over the last few months and where things are still settling in. Presentation, I have about 10 bullets here. It was taking about 5 minutes and then should be open for questions. The Canada Transportation Act process has been clarified. The discontinuation notice, which came out in July 2025, expires in July 2026. Up until July 2026, under the BC Rail agreement, which was signed by the government of British Columbia with CN Rail in 2004, until July of 2026, BCRC, the BC Rail Corporation, has the right to sell the track for $1 for the full network. That opportunity closes in July 2026, and from July to September, there will be an RFP process. CN is saying that they'll be leading it. The province of British Columbia is thinking perhaps they should be involved as well as the landowner for finding an interested and qualified party to take control of that track. If no one is found to be interested and qualified, under the CTA process, the track must be offered to government, which can include municipal government, to purchase, which could be done also by municipal First Nation consortium, business consortium. If not interested, we revert to BCRC, which could then again decide to sell it to CN. Six nations have signed a letter of interest in being involved in discussions for future governance arrangement. We have been promised a seventh will be forthcoming in the near future. All local governments along the line, including the one I'm speaking to, have indicated support for keeping the railway, minus two that have decided to remain neutral. BC government agents have indicated to me personally that the government of British Columbia, the sentiment within it is that the railway should not be lost for a variety of reasons, but they are concerned about tight timelines and procedural matters. Railway conditions I've spoken to a number of folks who are familiar with the line from professional experience, and I've had a look at the track myself. The railway is operational throughout, but conditions indicate that upgrades are needed to bring it back to marketable operational speeds. The cost would be in the tens of millions over the first 2 to 3 years of a transfer, after which the cost would go down considerably. It's just getting it back up to snuff. A company called Columbia Rail is in the final stages of its due diligence process on whether they believe that this railway is feasible from a short line operator's perspective. They believe strongly it is. Their primary concerns are ensuring that the trackway is delivered in operational condition, ergo that they're not on the hook for those tens of millions I've just mentioned, and that they have solid interchange arrangements at either end of their minimum viable corridor, which would be Williams Lake until the Port of Squamish. Other short line railways have not ruled out expressing interest at some point in the future. My final report is in the penultimate stage. It is over 100 pages long. It is a guaranteed sleeper. It's waiting for some additional information from the Prince George-based trucking industry to discuss the concepts of returning to drive-on, drive-off trucks from Prince George to Metro in order to get trucks off the highway and use the track more efficiently. We're trying to get some numbers on that. The local member of parliament for Sea to Sky has been briefed. Federal funding support and ensuring the alignment of national priorities regarding trade diversification and national resiliency of the infrastructure network. We do get a sense that the federal government needs to be involved to ensure that federal priorities, provincial priorities, and the policies of major infrastructure providers will be aligned, and that foundation is in place to allow a new governance regime to be designed for the Squamish to Exeter component, which has been applied for discontinuation. Slightly peripheral to the project, but something I looked at as a coordination tool with the passenger service inquiries, which are being led by Mountain Valley Institute, was a bikeway proof of concept along the southern portion of the track, with the idea of creating more passenger rail traffic, because people would bike up one way and then take the train back the other. So I'll just say I have the technical skills to do a proof of concept, a desktop proof of concept on a bikeway, and my results were consistent with, in my opinion, with the results of the 2022 Squamish-Lillooet Regional District Study on a bikeway along Howe Sound from Squamish to Lions Bay, for something I'm calling a high route at about 150 to 200 meters above sea level. I'm not advising it, I'm simply saying it's technically feasible. Thank you. Open for questions.
Thanks for that, Peter. Just before we open it up for questions, Peter, I was speaking with Tyler Bannock, Manager of Public Affairs and Stakeholder Relations for CNN, up at the LGMA. He said something which was I hadn't fully understood before. He said that CN was going to keep the tracks between North Van and Squamish, and that there would be no change. So the tracks that may change hands are from, as he described it, I think Squamish to 100 Mile House, maybe beyond. But so for the residents of Lions Bay, it didn't seem like there would be any change other than either more or less traffic, I guess. Do you have any comments?
He is correct. The section from North Vancouver to Squamish is not up for discontinuation. CN is not considering shutting down that stretch. That is correct. But we have identified that we're basically looking at two forms of traffic. One is for the Port of Squamish to more effectively serve the southern interior of British Columbia as its port, and that is the driving business case for a short line railway from Caribou to Squamish. But what we're looking into right now is um, the a modern version of the old BC rail system, which was to put trucks on trains and get them through the mountains, and to because of for safety and monetary reasons and highway maintenance conditions and things like that. So what we could find is that basically getting trucks filled with groceries um, would make sense, but that's not going to be starting at Squamish. That's going to be starting in Metro, whether it's North Vancouver or Annacis Island, I have no idea. And that would require some sort of track sharing arrangement, which would involve trains transiting the full length from Metro to Prince George along this line, and they would be at that point crossing ownership boundaries. So we'd have to come up with a track sharing arrangement that's acceptable to all parties involved at the time. But it's of interest because it was a major driver of business for BC Rail, and it was a major factor in keeping costs of living lower in interior British Columbia. So it's of high interest in this project, and that would involve trains, would involve increased traffic through Lions Bay.
Okay, any questions from residents? I know this pertinent subject and of interest to all Lions Bay residents. Any questions in the gallery or online? Councilor Barton?
Yeah, one of the sessions I attended, there was quite a concern by a number of the First Nations groups that to close the line was going to create a real hardship in terms of isolation for various communities. Has that been considered? Is that still in the works, or is it just what's the status of that concern?
As part of this project by Cairnstone, we have approached every single nation whose reserve is adjacent to or dissected by the rail corridor between Prince George and North Vancouver. We did emphasize the discontinuation section between Squamish and 100 Mile House. We also reached out to quite a few other nations that are generally within 50 kilometers of the line. And we've heard loud and clear their stories and concerns. I'd say that the Lillooet area nations, of which there are 6, are perhaps more concerned than others because Lillooet, although it's accessible by highway from 3 directions, all 3 of those highways are subject to weather conditions and geotechnical conditions, and the railway doesn't use the same route as the highways. So Lillooet has been cut off, and the railway is viewed as a way to prevent it from getting cut off. And indeed, the community of Seaton for the Shalath First Nation is, for all intents and purposes, only accessible by rail. They have a bud car that runs twice a day, and if you drive, you're basically a 3-hour 4x4 road where you have to go up 800 meters up into the mountains and then back down again on 4 service roads. So for day-to-day purposes, rail is the only way to access the community. But yes, our objective over the long term, should phase 2 of this project be approved and financed. We're wrapping up phase 1 at this stage. A primary objective is a governance regime, which would include First Nations in some truly strong capacity as co-owners or significant players in equity ownership or governance. How it's going to work, there's many options, and I really have no idea where it's going to come together. At this point, the objectives of phase 1 was to create a standard level of understanding and get people to agree to come to the table. Phase 2 is about getting the table going, if it is financed.
Thank you.
Okay, Peter, thanks for that. Any questions before Peter signs off? No? Okay, Peter, thank you very much for addressing the community. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, my pleasure. Thank you, Village Community of Lions Bay, for the interest. I'll just mention in closing that the statements being made by the community members and by the mayors and councils are being listened to by the province of British Columbia and by the government of Canada, and indeed by also Canadian National Railways and by the short line. What you're saying is being listened to, although you might not be getting responses. It is making a real difference in sentiment and policy direction, and I strongly encourage the community as a whole and its elected representatives to continue to loudly and clearly and repetitively state the positions and interests of the Village of Lions Bay.
Okay, thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
All right,
Bye-bye.
we'll move on to item 7.1, and that is the motion.
No, David,
Sorry.
4.2?
Sorry.
there.
Of course. Apologies.
As enticing as it all is, I do want to have a chance to speak.
Sorry, David.
That's all right, thanks. Hi, everybody. I know many of you, my name is David Buto. I live at 20 Seaview Place. I've been in the village for about 5 years. I just need about 3 minutes. I want to show you what we did, what council decided, and what happened after council made that decision. And then I have a simple ask, which is that we are seeking reimbursement of $6,402.17, which was the cost of the removal of the work that we carried out in good faith under a tree permit that this council unanimously approved in July. So let me just set the stage with how we got here. In the fall of 2023, the beach park project had been announced. I live near the beach park. There were some trees outside the beach park that we thought if we could do some work on them might improve our views. I then consulted with my neighbors, Rob Simons and Gary Brown on Lions Bay Avenue. We decided collectively that we wanted to address this stand of trees. So I contacted the village office and I said to Shauna, who's fantastic, here's the situation. She said, well, I know it's beside the park, but the process is that you submit a tree permit application. So we began the process and I spoke twice with Simon Watterson, who was on the tree committee, about what we were thinking and about best approaches. I then spoke and met with the beach park committee a couple times, not officially, but I spoke with Scott Gordon, who said, oh no, we have no budget for that. It's outside the park. It's got nothing to do with us. I then met with Garth at Village Works to talk about what we wanted to do in terms of a potential plan. I then submitted our initial application and heard from the village that we needed to, which I knew, contact affected neighbors. I got letters of support, unanimous from all 10 of the neighbors that we had requested about the work that we wanted to do. And met then last June, almost a year ago, on site with the tree committee to discuss it as sort of the next step of the project. And at that time, some of you may remember, the tree committee came back and we had a proposal to top certain parts of the trees in what we called area B and C. And the tree committee came back and said that they thought, given the location, proximity to the park, et cetera, that it would be a good idea for the village to essentially take this on as a project of their own for the benefit of the public good. It came to council. I stood here. You were all, I think, sitting in the exact same seats that you're sitting in right now, last July. And there was some discussion about whether the tree committee had the right to dictate to council where and how to spend money. There were comments made about council not funding work to the betterment of the view for one or two residents, which I agree with, by the way. And it was voted on that the work would be conducted under what we had applied for, which was to top sort of one of the stand trees, which we had called Area C, remove a few others. And we got our permit issued on October 1st. We had to wait until the end of the season. And just as the cladding was going up for the beach park project, we went in and did the work that we were supposed to do on, I think it was October 6th or 7th of last year. And then on October 27th, we got our damage deposit back because Public Works had inspected and said, yes, you've done everything properly. And I kind of thought that was it. And then I guess around February the 9th, the beach park project spilled outside of the park to this area and cleared all of the trees that we had previously requested be topped, which we paid $6,400 to be topped. And subsequent to February the 9th, there has been additional tree removal. There's hardly any of the trees left, and what is left looks like it's about to be removed because it's all been limbed up. There has been extensive landscaping work. There has been water and infrastructure put in there. There has been replanting done. This is a big, big project. And ultimately, where we stand is that private citizens have paid $6,000 to fund a public works project that if we had known at the time that this was going to happen, there is no way we would have applied to do this, because if the village was going to do it, why would we? I've talked to many neighbors, I've talked to many people, and I have been racking my brain if there is any reason why this isn't considered part of a public works project for the betterment of the community, and why private citizens should be not be reimbursed for funding. So I respectfully request that the council approve a reimbursement for the Vertigo Trees invoice, which I will provide. I think I already did to Shauna, but I would have to do it again. And by the way, I do think that the works, once completed, will make the beach park entrance look fantastic.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dave.
Very much.
Okay, certainly something to discuss with staff.
Yep.
Okay, we'll move on to item 7.1, and that is Councillor Proughton. Your motion is that staff reduce the 2026 budget to achieve a zero increase.
Exactly. Okay.
Do you want to move that?
Yes, I'd like to move that staff reduce the 2026 budget to achieve a 0% increase.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Okay, Councillor Cunliffe second, and discussion. Councillor Broughton, we'll go to you first and we'll go around the table.
Okay. I originally brought this motion to the April 21st meeting, and it was in a slightly different form where I was suggesting that we defer a storage project to do with this building, and that we defer that, and that we reflect the savings from that deferment and to cover this 3% reduction in the tax increase. But the contract was virtually let for that project, so that no longer made sense. At the same time, the item was removed from the agenda for a different reason, and that was there was a lack of some information, and so the motion was not discussed at the last meeting. And so just to say that this isn't just coming out of nowhere tonight. The concern that I have is that we went through a very rigorous budget process in the fall, and we came to a recommendation, and staff has started operating for 2026 based on that budget, and totally respect that. However, over this time period, some things have changed. There is a war going on in the world, and the BC government has significantly changed some of their policies. So I'd like to just quickly read several paragraphs which give purpose to this motion. So first of all, the provincial tax deferral programs have been materially changed, impacting many seniors and others in Lions Bay. All residents are being increasingly impacted by necessary costs outside of their control, including energy and food, due to the current world economic conditions. The background here is that approximately 100 homes, I was hoping Joe was here to give the exact number, but I believe it may in fact be exactly 100. It's awkward sometimes when a number's rounded. It sounds like it's rounded off, but it's actually accurate. That is about 20% of the village population took advantage of the provincial tax deferral program in 2025. There are 3 categories of persons who qualify for tax.
Councilor Broughton, I'm gonna ask Joe to join us at the same.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't there. Okay,
I didn't see him back there initially.
okay, sorry.
That's exactly what happened.
It's exactly 100, okay. It's like when they measured,
Councilor Broughton, we're each gonna have 5 minutes. And we'll
Okay.
speak twice to this, so continue on in about 3 minutes.
okay, what I found something I was not aware of, there are 3 categories of persons who qualify for tax deferment. The most common of those is 55 years of age. There's also a disability and one other. The program is grandparented to those who availed themselves up to 2025 and continue to pay prime minus 2% simple interest, with an ongoing but slower impact on their home equity. Even at these rates, though, numerous former residents have suffered unexpected impact at the time of downsizing or moving to another community. They end up having to pay their taxes at that point. Recent changes effective in 2026 moved to a rate of prime plus 2% compounded monthly, which rapidly impacts home equity. At the current rate of prime, which is 4.45%, with the 2% added, that creates a 6.45 monthly compounding. At this rate, the amount outstanding for this year's taxes will double in just over 11 years, actually 11 years and 2 months. Equity will rapidly decline, and if you continue to defer, that's a problem. Many residents currently enjoying the tax deferral program will not continue with the program and will need to identify funds to pay their taxes this year. So the above new information, together with the larger economic environment, requires council to reconsider the tax rate increase for 2026, and seek savings and economies within the village budget to reflect the needs of our residents.
Okay,
So I have
Councilor
a
Broughton,
couple of
you can wrap
questions
up.
for Joe, if I could.
Okay,
Okay.
go ahead, and then we're gonna move to
Okay,
the
so
next
first
council.
question, it is exactly 100. And how much would we need to reduce the tax roll to, what is 3%?
$60,000 approximately.
Approximately $60,000, okay.
It's about $115 per home. Plus gas.
Okay, so it's an amount that could be, an adjustment that could be made to the budget. So anyway, I'd like to proceed with this motion.
Okay, next speaker, any councilors? Councilor McLaughlin?
Thank you very much, Mayor Barry. My numbers were slightly different than Joe, but round numbers. If you divide, a point being 21,000, 3%, 66, divided by 500 homes, I came up with $126. And I compared that to the property tax of a standalone home, $5,500 to over $10,000. I disagree with Councilor Broughton as to the importance of this motion and find it has more sizzle than substance. I'll be voting against.
What?
Next, Councilor Abbott?
Yeah, I'll speak.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
Which part?
the last sentence.
More sizzle than substance.
More sizzle
Then
than
substance.
substance.
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilor Abbott?
I think the Fed's changes to the tax deferment policy is unfair. I think there are a lot of people that are impacted by that. I personally do not defer my taxes. Decided not to do it while I work, just so I wouldn't decrease the equity of my house. But there are people that do took use of that system, and I think it is unfair to them. Unfortunately, the only way we can actually do anything about that is to lobby the federal government. We can't, as a municipality, try and make adjustments when the taxes we take in order to rectify that wrong. It doesn't make any sense. It's a tail attempting to wag a dog. We can't fix this. I'm also principled against zero tax increases. I look on the last, I was going to say 4 years, but actually maybe in the last 8 years, it's certainly more in the last, say, 6 years, of the progress that we've made in the village around infrastructure, using the money from the infrastructure levy, as well as some tax increases. We've made huge progress compared to what we did in the previous 10 years. And I think we need to keep doing that. So I'll be voting against.
Okay, any other comments, Councillor Cunliffe?
I don't need to repeat what Councillor McLaughlin and Abbott have said, but I agree with that line of thinking.
Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor?
If I could.
Yeah, Mr. Blackwell, before we
Okay.
call the question.
Have his hand up, yeah.
Yeah, before you call the question, if I could suggest that the council wants to consider, or if you're going to debate a 0% tax increase, I would ask council to be specific on what they want cut, not to hang that on the shoulders of staff and sort of us come back with a shopping list. I would ask that council specify what they want to facilitate that.
All right, thank you very much. All in favor? Opposed? Motion defeated. Okay, 7.1, we have a motion that the 2026-2030 5-year financial plan bylaw number 655, 2026 be adopted. We have a motion. Okay, moved by Councillor McLaughlin, second by Councillor Cunliffe. Discussion, please raise your hand. Okay, Councillor Abbott.
I appreciate being given the opportunity to get some more information and get the actuals in before we did this. Looking at the CFO, I had hoped that we'd get to discuss those actuals and how they relate to the budget being actually passed prior to seeing them, and we assume we're not going to get that opportunity. Certainly not if we approve this motion tonight. I had asked for some additional information, more detailed split that you'd given us over time, and we don't actually have that here, so I've done a few things myself to look at it. I've come up with two major concerns. The first concern is there's a lot of places, professional fees is an obvious one that jumps out. There's a lot of places where the 2025 budget was exceeded in actuals by large numbers in the professional fees. And so in the professional fees, for example, it's like 160,000. And in salaries, I'll talk to that in a minute. In several places, they've gone up. But that's consistent through this budget. So that lends me to a concern that, and the correct process, actually the community charter says we should have always had council approve an additional budget before we did that. We don't do that. We don't seem to get there. So that makes me feel the budget numbers are treated as soft numbers. And I think I'd like to see much harder numbers. So that's the first concern. And we have several places now where we're budgeting less than the previous year's actuals, which makes me believe we're going to repeat that mistake. That's the first thing I'm concerned about. The other concern I've got is staff salaries. So the staff salaries for the administration, I'll just give you the quick numbers, were the actual in 2025 was 853,000. The budget was 774. So we exceeded it by $80,000. And then the 2026 budget is 792,000, which is less than last year's actual. So in case we feel there's that concern that I just raised, it is demonstrated there. And then if I look at the public works, and I had to go take all the different lines of public works and add them all together, because from one year to the next they get allocated sometimes slightly differently, and maybe accurately, maybe we spend more time on water than 1 year and more time on parks the next. So I added them all together. The 2025 actual for public work was 891,000. Our budget was 996,000. So that sounds like good news. Our budget in 2026 is 990,000, which is 100,000 more than last year's actuals. This, we all know, is because there's been a request to add an additional staff member in the public works department. I am a huge fan of the work that gets getting done by our public works. They have done an amazing amount of work in the last few years. I'm big supporter of all the infrastructure stuff we've done. So this is not in no way criticism of what they're doing. They're doing great work and great effort all the time. I'm very thankful for that. However, part of that is being increased scale of technology and other actions that when we agreed to do those items, part of the sell for those items was they were going to help us reduce the amount of work, the amount of time we spend on people traveling in because we're going to automate valves. And I need to go into all the detail, but that's meant to reduce hours. If this money was approved and was going to be used to do additional CapEx items, I would of course be supportive of that. But if we did that, you should be reducing the CapEx budget you've approved because otherwise you'd be paying for it twice. So my bottom line is I don't believe we got the opportunity that I've been calling for to review these things and take one last look at that budget. So for that reason, I'm not ready to approve it tonight.
Okay, any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor McLaughlin?
Thank you very much, Margaret. I too would have preferred to have seen the information. We're in early May now. Granted, the fiscal year ends by the accounts, maybe just shortly off the press, but it would have been much nicer to have seen financial information between December when we last talked about the budget and the in-house year end. And we wouldn't be bringing it up just as we're about to put the final light on the candle for approval.
Okay, I just want to remind all the councillors that we have discussed this in past budgets, is that Mr. Cherkoff is available to contact directly through our CAO, Mr. Blackwell. And Mr. Cherkoff, did you make yourself available during this process?
I answered my phone. I'm just gonna say that we had 3 readings of the budget in 2025 in November. There's 5 months of availability to take some time and ask questions. So I find it highly irregular that we're in May and this is getting relitigated. As a conciliatory item, I do agree with Councillor Abbott that, yeah, we can definitely tighten up numbers. Take another look at it based on actuals that we're getting through the audit process and closing up our year-end books. We do have the opportunity to amend the budget whenever you like. I would say pragmatically, the best interest of the village is to adopt this budget and then have a committee of the whole meeting to tighten it up and go from there. Nothing's really going to change for our staffing or spending in that time. But I think what the goal here is that Councillor Abbott is bringing up is that we want to more tightly align the budget to the actuals. So I think the answer to that is more timely reporting on a quarterly basis to council on budget actuals, and that we can sit down and tighten it up again. Again, there's no problem in amending the budget, but we need to pass something before May 14th, by May 14th, 12 a.m., or else we have no legal basis for taxation.
Okay, Mr. Blackwell, did you want to add anything?
No, I think Mr. Cherkoff has addressed it very well. I mean, it's not uncommon for every council or board that I've worked with to, at the last minute, when you're getting close to crossing the finish line, have a sense that you really want to do due diligence. Let's just have one more quick check, make sure everything is as it should be. That's in my experience perfectly natural. If there's any salvation or solace, I guess, that you could take, is that the discussions were quite thorough throughout the fall with regard to getting to where we are now. But as Mr. Cherkoff also says, if there's any material change, there is the ability to amend the budget. That's not uncommon either.
Okay, before I go to Councillor Abbott, any other councillors wish to speak that haven't had a chance? No? Okay, Councillor Abbott.
Just to clarify Mr. Cherkoff's availability and me not availing myself of that since we got this last week. As you all know, I work full time. I have a very busy schedule. I have not had time to have a meeting with Mr. Cherkoff. I did send email. Granted, it wasn't very specific, asking for further detail. And in the short timeline, that opportunity just never arose. I'm sure giving more time, Mr. Cherkov would have been able to give me additional detail.
I'm happy to provide any information you like. We are processing utility bills, we're processing tax invoices, we're processing multiple things, trying to get the audit through. Last minute requests of this nature are very difficult to accommodate in a timely manner, given the time of the year.
I accept that. I'm just saying it wasn't a choice not to get the detail from you. I did ask for it.
All right, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carried. Okay, 7.2, next motion is that tax rates bylaw number 664/2026 be granted first, second, third reading. Do we have a motion? Moved by Councilor Cunliffe, seconded by, do we have a second? Councilor McLaughlin. Discussion, please raise your hand. No, okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed, motion carried.
If I may, through the mayor. Just as a reminder, from the email Chris was sent out, we will require another meeting to have adoption of the tax rates bylaw. So we need to statutorily approve 5-year plan. Great. Tax rate follows afterwards. And so we need that fourth reading. I assume we're gonna have this call a special meeting within after 24 hours from today.
Yeah.
If I could,
Okay.
We're meeting.
Yeah, Mr. Blackwell, then Councilor McLaughlin.
yeah, I was just that special meeting for this purpose will be scheduled for Tuesday after the committee of the whole. And that way, should there be anything else that comes from committee of the whole, council can tack that on to the regular or the special council meeting as well. So Tuesday.
All right. Thank you for that, Councilor McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mayor Barry. It's exactly what I was going to suggest.
Okay. All right, we'll move to 7.3, the action log, and that's page 32. Any councilors wish to pull any items out for discussion?
If I may, Mayor Barry,
Councilor McLaughlin.
I believe item the first one, deadline pass 364. This is staff to look at completing a accessible parking audit and potential grant funding via Spark due March 26. Obviously, it's come and gone. It's passed, it's dead, strike please. And the additional is for 376 when we get to it from the work director of operations.
Okay, any other items councilors wish to discuss? No, okay. Councilor McLaughlin, was that 376?
New addition 376, and the topic is today, monthly update on water metering project by DOO, and it's in progress.
Eric, would you like to give us a verbal update on that, or?
Yeah, thank you. So through chair, this is, I'm assuming like updates on the 3 water meter project, or 3 water projects, sorry, capital projects. The first being the metering, in my head, I have it split into 3 projects. We have metering, supply and delivery contract. That's currently on BC bid with a close of March 25th. So the intent of this, request for proposals is to obtain, information from meter suppliers. And we can evaluate the meter they're proposing. And the AMI infrastructure, that's the back-end computer infrastructure for monitoring consumption and leaks, and integrating that with our utility back-end software. So that's currently out for proposals.
So you mentioned, if I may interrupt through the mayor,
Yeah.
that it was the bid was maturing March 25th.
May.
Sorry, May 25th.
May 25th.
Yes, May 25th.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. The phase 2 in my head of my project list is the meter install tender. So once the proposals have been, or once the proposal for the supply has been awarded, we can go to tender for contractors to install the meters. That's currently with our consulting team. We're just finalizing the last few details on the specifications and the drawing, and I expect that to be on BC bid in a few weeks. It is intended to be staggered with the supply and delivery package RFP, so we have some not a direct overlap. So these contractors know who they're gonna be getting, meters, or who will be getting meters from, and the exact meters they'll have to install.
So when was that?
I'm, in the next 2 to 4 weeks, I'm hoping to get that on DC Bid.
Oh, going out in next week.
Yes, yeah, yes.
I'm sorry, I was pushing a target date to get the start installing. When the residents can see the street getting done.
I'm hoping within a couple months, we can see installs. It's gonna depend on the contractor we get and their availability of the meters. There's still a lot of moving parts, but, maybe within 2 or 3 months, there'll be shovels on the ground, installing meters.
Okay, third item.
The third is the cut project, the water main project. That is, at beyond the 90% detailed design. I've provided comments to our consulting engineer, and we're working through, again, the last few details on that, including the tender package. That would also go up for tender on VC Bid. The consultant has not given me a definitive timeline, but I would expect a tender package within the next few weeks that I can review, and then posting on VC Bid within a month or two, with a closing date 6 weeks after that.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other items, Councilor Broughton?
I really applaud the concept of a monthly update on major projects. I just wanted to point out that I requested an update on the Park and Jetty project on July the 8th, July the 22nd, September the 2nd, October the 7th, and October the 21st. And those items were removed from the agenda by this council. And we're going to be dealing with an issue later this evening regarding the beach park. And I just totally believe that had we had the monthly updates that I requested, that we would not be dealing with this at the 11th hour. So I really applaud the monthly updates. I really appreciate it. And I think it's very important for all major projects that we're involved in.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. All right, any other items before we move on? Okay, we will move to staff reports, and Mr. Blackwell, we're going to go to your addition, and that's the fire truck verbal report. So over to you.
Thank you. So this is something that has just come to my attention, which is why I'm bringing it to you in this sort of way. I'm not looking for any specific resolution, but it would be helpful to get read the temperature on the room with regard to where council would prefer this issue go. And what it concerns is fire truck number 61. Over the last 12 months, say, has had in the order of $43,000 worth of work. Fire Rescue just got a quote to do some more engine repairs on that vehicle, which, as I understand it, has taken it out of commission. And that is $60,000 to get some sort of cylinder sleeve. Don't ask me what that's all about. That's beyond my pay grade. But it's a cylinder sleeve, whatever that is. Two things. This truck is getting to the point where it can no longer be recertified based on its age. And the costs are starting to mount. By the way, as a footnote, I just shake my head at this sort of thing, given that these fire trucks are worth so much money. One would think that they would last 100 years, sort of idea, but regardless of the kilometers, they don't seem to, which is just amazing to me. So the options are, I guess I'll give you three options just to give me some direction to report back on. The first option I don't necessarily recommend, and that is to acquire a new fire truck, which would be north of about $1.2 million. Option number two, buy out of the States a truck that is a maximum of 10 years old, ideally less. That would come in anywhere, depending on the truck and its accessories and its mileage, anywhere between $400,000 and $550,000 Canadian, roughly, as a spitball number, and that would buy somewhere in the order of 10 to 15 years of use for that used vehicle. Some of these used vehicles, for context, are quite low mileage because they're not kilometers. One I was looking at is about 4,500 miles, which is pretty good. So that's another option. And the last option is keep repairing that truck with the cautionary note that we don't know what the upper limit is going to be with these repairs, and it's fast reaching the end of its life span. I think it has a year or two left. So I just need to sort of gauge council's appetite for where you want to go. If you said, well, let's explore option 2, bring back a staff report as soon as possible. I could bring one actually for further discussion of committee of the whole for Tuesday, and set this all out. What are the costs? What's the timing? How does all that work? Et cetera, et cetera. So I just, rather than take the time to prepare something council doesn't want, I would like to sort of get a sense as to where council would like me to go with this.
All right, Mr. Blackwell, thanks for that. And I think this is the first time council has heard this. I know we talked about an hour before the meeting. So any comments from the councilors? I feel I need more information, but Councillor Broughton, and then we'll go to Councillor McLaughlin, Councillor Cunliffe, Councillor Abbott.
Okay, so just to clarify, this is fire truck number 61.
Yes.
And the truck that had extensive work earlier in the summer, I believe, was 63. Different truck.
It's the same truck, whatever the number is. I'd have to double check, but it's the same truck.
It's the same truck.
Yeah.
Mr. Cherkoff's got his hand up at the back.
If I may just clarify, so
Yeah.
Rescue 63 is the smaller truck at about $6,000 in repairs. The small pumper, the smaller one, had 40-something thousand in maintenance last year. And then 62, which is the larger one for highway callouts, didn't have any maintenance.
Okay, thank you.
So which one are we talking about now? We're talking
62, that sounds.
the 62,
My understanding, the smaller truck, Mr. Blackwell, is the one you're referring to?
That's correct.
Okay.
No,
No, not the smallest, sorry, the smaller fire engine,
The smaller pumper.
yes.
the red one.
smaller
Yes.
pumper truck.
Yeah.
And it's 20-something years old.
Correct.
So,
Okay.
and it expires at 25 years old.
25, sorry, through the chair,
Yes.
25 years old. And then with testing, it can be extended to 30. And then there are some other provisions that might allow further extensions, but I don't have the expertise to walk you through what that is. But what it results in is a reduced fire rating. If you don't have a truck that's certified up to a certain point, it's not like you can't have a truck on the road that has exceeded those limitations. It just means your fire rating decreases. So that means your insurance, property insurance will go up, because the reliability in terms of the underwriters with regard to vehicle reliability gets called into question. Not just the vehicle, it's the equipment on the vehicle as well, the pumps and so forth.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Very much. I'd make sure who knows what. I believe we're going to do a significant interview in the very near future.
Mhm.
If this interview works out well for us, and I think that would be the time for that individual to be brought into play and use their expertise on this versus using staff's time and probably searching for assistance as well. So I would just stand down for the time being, hoping that the interview works well, and this is assignment 1.
Yeah, Councillor Cunliffe.
I was gonna say, I agree with the timing that Councilor McLaughlin's suggesting, but I would say explore option number 2.
Okay, Councillor Abbott.
Well, first of all, to your suggestion, this first time council heard this, it's not, we've been kicking this can down the road for quite some time. I I think we need more information. I think we need to keep working to narrow in on a solution. Absolutely don't think we should pull the trigger before we have a new fire chief, because he obviously has to have a say and some input. But I'm happy to gather more information as soon as we can.
Okay, Councillor Broughton.
Yeah, I'm fully supportive of getting some more information, and I think if we can find out roughly what might be available, what the price ranges might be, that type of thing, I think is really important. I'm very, very pleased that we're discussing this. I'm very pleased this has come to council. I don't want to keep riding whatever the term is. But on September the 2nd, I put an item on the agenda to recognizing that it's operational. However, council could benefit from an update on fire truck 63 repairs to inform council's longer term decisions on budget for replacement. So I put that on the agenda for September 2nd, and council in its wisdom at that time removed it. So I'm thinking that this is becoming problematic.
Okay.
Thank you.
Certainly.
That's all I need. What I'm hearing from council is report back, provide some information around what an option 2 might look like in terms of, soup to nuts information. And there's no request at all for any decision right now. It's just to sort of get this discussion going and give council a sense as to what this looks like. We'll include in that report sort of where the budget lies with regard to funding this. There's some money set aside in reserves, not enough for a new truck or the full payment for a secondhand vehicle, but there's some money set aside. So if what I'm hearing is correct, I will bring back a report for your consideration and further discussion with no decisions on Tuesday.
All right, thank you very much for that, Mr. Blackwell. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, and that's 8.1.1, the OCP Steering Committee. Motion on the table is that we confirm its collective commitment to the official community plan and zoning bylaw refresh process, and that council appoint the mayor and one other member of council to serve on the steering committee, and that council directs staff to establish an official community plan steering committee to support the OCP and zoning bylaw refresh process, and that staff be directed to undertake a public solicitation for expressions of interest and report back to council with recommended appointments. Do we have a motion for that? Okay, moved by Councillor Broughton. We have a seconder. Councillor Cunliffe, second. Discussion, please raise your hand. Okay, Councillor Cunliffe.
Well, I would like to actually hear from the CAO on this recommendation, because after reading this, I immediately zero in on option 2. I think that broader public engagement opportunities are exactly what we need to engage with the community about the OCP. The last time the OCP was brought up, it did not go well. And I think if there's any perception in the public that there are particular members of council that are driving this sort of initiative and filtering how public engagement is going to look, is not going to be well received by the community. So if we could hear from the CAO.
Mr. Blackwell, this is your report. Can you please give us some background?
Happy to. So normally with, let's just say normally with OCP reviews, of course, there's sort of sort of a bifurcated process where one stream is direct community engagement with community members, and folded into that is engagement with stakeholder groups and special interest groups and so forth within a given community. The second is a steering committee that's comprised of a cross-section of community members representing sort of different interest areas, so youth, seniors, etc. Some communities will appoint somebody that has accessibility experience or knowledge to a committee like this, etc. The purpose is for the consultant to be able to have a consistent sounding board on issues, and then that OCP committee, steering committee, can certainly make recommendations to council with regard to whatever stage or information needs to be brought to council. So this is fairly boilerplate stuff in terms of making sure that, in terms of engagement and participation and sort of a granular approach at engagement, this steering committee sort of folds into that.
Okay, any other comments, Councillor McLaughlin?
Thank you very much, Mayor Barry. I think I too believe in item number 2, option 2, for the same reasons that the councillor kind of left. Plus, unfortunately, if council will recall the time when the contractor met with us and talked about their program and the timing for it, they recognize it falls right smack dab in the middle of the election period, both before and during, which brings us to the after. Whoever's sitting on that meeting may not be the next council. But for that reason, I would suggest that we just keep going along as is proposed with option number 2.
Sorry if I may.
Yeah, Mr. Blackwell.
These are not options. It's one resolution that's comprised of 3 components.
Okay, any other comments, Councillor Abbott?
I'll speak. I'll be voting against the resolution because, like the other 2 councillors, I believe staff's option 2, which was offered. There is an option 2 described here, which involves broader public engagement is the way to go. I won't repeat what has just been said by the other 2 councillors that just spoke, but I will remind everyone that the land use master plan, the LUMP, as we call it, that we all know did not go very well, had a similar steering committee type process, and residents insisted on being part of it and actually gate crashed the meeting, insisted in sitting there and being part of it. So I've no reason, no interest in going down that path again. Didn't work last time. I think we need to go with this option 2. No steering committee.
Okay, any other comments?
I should tell you that if council doesn't want to strike a formal committee of council as a steering committee, that staff will nonetheless establish a steering committee. I feel that it's, of all the OCP work I've done, I rely on the community's input, and I need to hear the community's voice around the table. So 2 ways that can go. You can do it formally through council resolution, or it'll happen at a staff level.
Okay, Councillor Broughton, and then I'll speak, and then we'll go to Councillor Abbott. Councillor Broughton.
I think it's very important that we input, that we give as much direction as we possibly can to the consultant. And I think that council represents the community, and that council members should be actively involved.
Okay, first of all, just so everyone's clear, this is the staff's report. This isn't the mayor's report. I noticed that the middle of this motion has the mayor's name. But I will say that after listening to our CAO, Mr. Blackwell, and hearing the former issues that arose in the last public hearings, and this OCP is over 20 years old. So, I think it's important for consultation. As a reference, I can talk, I heard some of the residents talk about the parking earlier today. We had a task force back in 2024, March, and it lasted for 90 days. Council was vigorously opposed to that. The mayor put a task force together, 90 days, and we have a report here, which the first recommendation was establish a parking committee. And if we hadn't established that parking committee, which was struck down by this council, I think we would have answered a lot of questions. And some of the residents had said, I wish there was some consultation. Where was the discussion with us? Well, it was shot down. So we have another chance with this OCP. The government has put a grant up, it's fully paid for, it's about 150,000, give or take. That has to be spent by the end of December. This is an OCP that's a visioning for the community. Quite frankly, it's not my vision, it's not the councilor's vision, or it would include that, but it's listening to the community. And I think it's important if there's an opportunity to pull on people. When we saw Hillary Montfred, who's specializes in transportation and various things, which would be included in that OCP. I think we've got some very talented people in the village that if they could offer guidance, we could benefit from it. Mr. Blackwell said, if we don't have a steering committee offering guidance, it's going to come from staff. Okay, so it's going to happen. It's just a matter of whether we're going to include some very talented people in the village that put up their hands and say, look, I want to volunteer, but for a limited time, and are willing to step forward. So I think that's what the plan is. So I would be supporting this. Any other comments, Councillor Abbott?
Yeah, just some comments on what I've just heard from the last two speakers, yourself and the CAO. First of all, I'm troubled by a statement that if council doesn't do this, we're gonna go ahead and do it. Staff's gonna go ahead and do it themselves. I think there's several items on tonight's agenda in recent times where if staff had listened or taken the opportunity to consult with council, they would have better understood residents' position. Council is your steering committee. Council understand what residents want. I don't think we need to have one councillor and the mayor set up a steering committee and drive the process. I mean, all of council needs to be involved, and there's no reason why we can't all be involved. And as to the previous suggestion, Mr. Mayor, of a parking committee, the same thing applies. You can consult with all of council. I'm not saying we should exclude residents. We've got to engage residents, got to get as much of the stuff as they need, but we don't need to make it exclusively to one or two councils.
Okay, I'm going to respond to that just because Councillor Abbott directed a lot of that attention to the mayor. So I will say that the task force on parking was made up of, I think it was 15 or 20 people. And there was a number of recommendations. First was to form a committee and gather together all of the previous work, former Mayor Burr and others that have done a lot of work, but it hasn't been consolidated. Secondly, I guess this is where Councillor Abbott and I differ, is I don't believe we should be micromanaging this. I believe a steering committee can offer guidance, but I do not believe that this council should be micromanaging our staff. And it's caused a lot of problems over the last 3.5 years. In fact, it's cost tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees because of this very fact that staff is being interfered with.
Point of order.
Yeah.
Can we talk to this resolution, because you're going off topic, and I am going to want to discuss the off-topic matter, which is not on the table tonight, because I do not agree with what you just said at all. This keeps the matter on hand.
Okay, I'm responding to the micromanaging of council. Any other councillors wish to put up their hands before we call a question?
If I may ask Councillor Cunliffe.
Councillor Cunliffe and then Councillor McLaughlin.
Yeah, I'll go last.
Okay, Councillor Cunliffe.
I would just like to say I agree with Councillor Abbott's sentiment that if we had a resolution or a friendly amendment that council appoint council to serve on the steering committee. I believe this is something that we all have a voice for. We live in different areas of the village. We all know our own neighbors' concerns. I believe widespread public consultation is what is required. If we wanted to have a town hall and invite every resident to the town hall and not be approaching specific residents, give everybody an opportunity and whittle into some sort of steering committee that is refined after that process, then maybe I will get on board. But out of the gate, this just doesn't seem like it's going to serve the entire resident population equitably. So therefore, I am not willing to vote in favor of this tonight.
Okay, we'll go to Councillor McLaughlin.
Thank you very much, Mayor Barry.
Question.
Thank you very much,
Councillor McLaughlin.
Thank you very much, Mayor Barry. And I guess ultimately questions for you to sort this out, how we do it. The motion before us is on the last page, on page 35, which I'm opposed to, but I like the content of option 2. So my question back to you is that when you post the motion All in favor on what's being put before us? If it's defeated, will you be putting into motion to go proceed without a steering committee? That complicates things because Mr. Blackwell has told us he's gonna do it on his own.
May I
Okay.
jump?
Mr. Blackwell, you wanted to speak, be the final speaker, go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
this should not be as politicized as the.
Sorry, Mr. Blackwell, I passed over Councillor Broughton. We'll go to Councillor Broughton and we'll come back to you. Thank you for your patience.
What my concern is that we have a huge number of tasks before us and not a whole lot of time left in the term. And council wants to be involved in everything. Well, certainly we will be involved in everything. Our role as executives to have oversight. And we need to delegate some things. The mayor needs to be involved in this process. One other councillor, we have not determined who that is yet. Both of them would be reporting back to this council. I think we need to get some efficiencies of moving forward. We have a time-sensitive OCP process during an election cycle. The funds must be spent by December 31st. We have $153,000. We have a contractor ready to go. We need to pull the trigger on this and get moving and make sure it goes well. And we need to have a substantial oversight on this process, but we don't need to be involved in every aspect of it. And that has been a downfall of this council, is that we keep delaying things. We cannot move motions through, and we pull stuff off the agenda, and delays, things that are delayed are very problematic.
Okay, Mr. Blackwell. Thank you, Councillor Broughton, for that. Mr. Blackwell.
Thank you. It's unfortunate this is taken on sort of a political lens. It shouldn't. Steering committees every community does it. This is the first time, another first for Lions Bay, that establishing consultation group like this would be actually controversial. This is a no-brainer. This is about having community members represent the community. The community members can represent communities better than elected folks. So I'm just going to talk generally speaking, not about this council, but typically folks that are elected, particularly late in their term, have all sorts of political biases. So what, in my experience, which is long around OCP writing, is anytime council is involved in steering committees, the process fails, and usually spectacularly, because there isn't a consistent voice around the council table. So the consultant is getting sort of having to manage a bifurcated political reality. Council members sort of tend to dominate the discussion at the cost of the community members. Community members typically feel intimidated with regard to chiming in. So the value of having two representatives of council on the steering committee is not for them to, let me hit the pause button and back up. This is not council's document. Okay, let's be clear. This is not council's document. This is the community's document. The community gives this to council to help council in its decision making. So it's better if council has no involvement at all. But the reason why I'm suggesting that two people be appointed to the committee is not so you can steer anything. And I personally will guard against that. In fact, no council member should be the chair. It's there to ensure that there is fair reporting back, the perception of fair reporting back to the rest of council from council colleagues. It's only for dissemination of information. But if it's problematic, I still need that as a professional planner. I need the community involvement in this sort of way. I've always worked with steering committees, and I would want, for this project to be successful, I would want a community-heavy steering committee, ideally. But if council doesn't want to go down that route and point to council members, I'm happy just to do it at a staff level and solicit participants that way as well.
Okay, Councillor Conlon.
I would,
And then I'll call the question.
I would prefer to see this withdrawn and come back after we have had a well-published call for a town hall stating very clearly what the objective is, would be to gauge community participation in participating in such a committee, and then see who comes out and is willing to do so, appoint a committee at that time. I just.
All right, I'll call the question. All in favor?
I'm sorry, what is the?
The question is that, as I read it.
Number
at
one?
the very beginning,
Page-
number
page-
one.
page
And it
three,
is
option
that
one.
council confirmed the
Page 30,
collective
number one.
commitment to the official community plan and zoning bylaw refresh process, and the council appoint the mayor and another member of the council to serve on the steering committee, and that council direct staff to establish an official community plan steering committee to support the OCP and zoning bylaw refresh process, and the council be directed to undertake a public solicitation for expressions of interest and report back to council with the recommended appointments. All in favor? Opposed? Motion defeated. Okay, Mr. Blackwell, you've got item number 2, but as I read it, it doesn't look like it needs to be approved. It looks like it puts things in the hands of the staff. And,
Mayor, I believe, on the agenda change, we put, Councillor Abbott just ahead of this point.
sorry,
No, we're still talking.
no, we're
Okay.
seeing whether, Mr. Blackwell, do we need, option 2 was discussed by a couple of councilors. Does that need a resolution? To me, it reads as though standard process, we just move forward with our OCP group and start calling public meetings.
Yeah, given that council has voted that resolution down, staff will create its own steering committee. And so I'll reach out to the community and look for, in the order of about 8 or 9 people that represent a cross-section of interest to be the resource for the consultant and to as a resource staff.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Cunliffe, you had your hand up?
Can we ask
Councillor Abbott?
how that will look? Will that be a call going out in the village update, a mail drop into everybody's post office box, so everybody is given the same opportunity?
Mr. Blackwell, how does the OCP process move along from this point on?
Well, the process is different than the question that Councillor Cunliffe just asked. So in response to the question asked, we'll use our standard notification process, which will include a notice posted at the post office and the village update and any other sort of venue to get out the message.
If I could add, I would like to see a mail drop to every resident in their post office box as well.
Mr. Blackwell, Councillor Cunliffe is asking for a mail drop. Is that standard or would we need a resolution to authorize you for that?
I can take a look at that. I don't know if there's extra cost or time to do that. If there's not a lot involved in doing that, I have no concerns about doing that. The goal is to engage with as many people as many times as we possibly can. It's not about minimizing.
Okay, Councillor Abbott.
Sorry, I was trying to speak earlier, but I didn't get a chance. I'm reading this option 2 again. And I'm going to read it, and you can read it as a motion. I'm reading it word for word. Council directs staff to proceed with the OCP process without a steering committee, relying instead on broader public engagement opportunities and council input. I'd like to put that forward as a motion. Can I get a second?
Okay, Councillor Cunliffe seconded. Discussion.
I think we discussed.
All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, next item.
For clarification, so I'm concerned that this motion now is going to severely fetter staff's ability to achieve what council has stated as a fundamental goal. So council on one hand is telling me it wants robust community engagement. On the other hand, council is shutting that down. So you're giving me 2 totally opposing messages. I need to have a steering committee, and this is very, very problematic for me.
On a point of order, through the chair, can the CIO please stop talking all over everyone? We did not say we want less public engagement. We said more. I read the words of your recommendation option 2. Please take that as it was intended. We want you to get greater engagement and we want council to be involved. Thank you.
Okay, my interpretation is council wants more involvement.
My interpretation is council wants more public involvement.
That's the OCP process, and that's what a steering committee does as well. It's actually further development. So
Okay, I think.
I think Mr. Blackwell is telling us that the process is going to be a lot more difficult now. Anyway, let's move on to the next item.
Aye.
Okay, 8.1.2, Bear Smart and reports provided to council. Mr. Blackwell, that's page 36.
That would be again, Mayor Barry, that's where Councillor Abbott gets his.
No, this is Councillor, sorry, this is Mr. Blackwell's.
We had put this on the agenda. And
The agenda actually moved their smart report ahead of
Okay,
this.
so we're gonna address that twice, or we're moving it from council?
No, I understood the request is to remove my report now so that they discussed at the same time.
Okay.
The CAO's report.
Go ahead, and then we'll go
I'm
to
not
Mr.
gonna do it
Blackwell.
twice. Okay, and given the time, I'm not going to go through the entire report. Everyone's got it, it can be attached to the next agenda. Because we're not allowed to bring it on table tonight, but I will speak to what everyone's seen over the weekend, the parts of the meeting that relate to this subject matter we've got here. For those that understand, attending the meeting were the Director of Operations, the Mayor, the Bylaw Officer, the Smart Committee member Norma Rogers, Sergeant Doyle from the Conservation Office Services, and myself as the council liaison. Skip through the first part of the report, which was the history of Westmort, got reiterated by.
Point of clarification, you said that we saw this over the weekend. I actually got this at 6:03 this evening. I'm not sure.
Okay, I'll have to go check. Maybe there's
Okay, I
something.
haven't seen it if it came after 2 o'clock this afternoon.
Okay,
Well, just
Okay, I'll
point
let
of
you-
information, it says, 6,
okay, all right, sorry. I can
6:03:01,
answer- Sorry,
May 5th.
I can answer your question. Sorry, I didn't
Okay.
realize. So
Point
I
of-
didn't.
Point of information.
It was sent over the weekend to everyone that attended the meeting, including the mayor and the CIO. It wasn't sent to the balance of council. My mistake. I thought everyone got it. I did forward it again today to make sure it was on the agenda. So you all saw it late. My apologies.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. I thought everyone was included, but it was only the people. It didn't include the other councils. I apologize. Okay. So, as I said, the conservation officer, Sergeant Doyle, was in attendance by phone. The first item we discussed was the relationship between conservation office services and Westmart committees in general. Now that that role had been moved to the Ministry of Water, Land and Resource Stewardship, Walrus, they were now taken over jurisdiction. The conservation officer told us that nothing has changed. All the same protocols are still in place. We still have to have this working group as we do have. And the Westmart program rules and stuff we have to do are all exactly the same, including bylaw, waste control, all of those things. We asked him if we could get us a contact name at Walrus. He said he would work on that, and we didn't have a name for this. There was then a further discussion about the formation of the working group. Sergeant Doyle explained that the third working group is made up of Westmart groups, bylaw enforcement, works management or director of operations, CAO. In some communities, it's RCMP. I mean, in our case, not in some communities, waste control services, as they don't attend the meetings, but they are available as a resource. Those are the people that normally attend those things. There was further question about what we call Westmart Committee. And Sergeant Doyle explained this is a community group, normally a grassroots group that promotes Westmart initiatives, that does education, that does publications, all of the things the Lions Bay Westmart community does. He equated Lions Bay Westmart to the North Shore Blood Society, which does the same thing. He mentioned the name of the one in Whistler, which I've now forgotten, it's not in the minutes. And he mentioned there's a similar group in Squamish. So all organizations do the same thing, and they have this working group. The mayor introduced, which is what's going to be introduced in a minute from the CIO's report, the mayor introduced the suggestion that the Bear Smart Working Group should be a committee of council. It was explained again that that is not their place. That then was a suggestion that the Bear Smart Committee should be a committee of council. So there's a little confusion on those two roles. We discussed that again. Once again, and settled on everyone understanding. Bear Smart Committee should probably not have used that term. That's what they used, the committee term. I mean, they've always used for the last 15 years, but it's really a community grassroots group like the North Shore Bear Smart, the North Shore Black Bear Society, and that the working group is the group of members that I just described as prescribed by COS of everyone that's affected. So I just want to make everyone understand that. The rest of the report and other items we can put on the next agenda, and I can take questions on those if you wish.
All right, thank you. Mr. Blackwell, can you please walk us through your report?
Yes, the report before you is there for your information. It was driven by comments from the Ombudsperson's office with regard to this provincial designation that rests with the municipality and considers the fact that an elected member serves as a liaison to that outside committee. There's an expectation of transparency. So they are, the Ombudsperson's office have sort of indicated that their expectation is that meeting dates are posted, that agendas are posted, and the meeting minutes are posted because of that backdrop being a municipal sort of designation with a council member as a liaison. I advised the Ombudsperson's office that this is an outside volunteer group, that we cannot compel them to provide any of that information. The best I was able to do is have the Bear Smart, excuse me, the Bear Smart committee, we'll call it, as a standing agenda item. And if there's anything to report on, there can be a verbal report, and that can go some way to satisfying that expectation for transparency. I've set out a more fulsome approach that council could consider. In Port Hardy, for example, it's a committee of council. In other places, it's not a committee of the council. It's not that there's one option that's so much better than the others. It's just that we now have to respond to the direction we have received from the province with regard to transparency. So these are options for you to consider. I will enact whatever council chooses.
Okay, we've got 3 items on the table. The first motion is that council establish a formal Bear Smart Standing Committee of Council. This would embed the function within the municipality governance framework and ensure full transparency through agendas, minutes, and public reporting while providing clear administrative oversight. Do we have a motion for that? Okay, moved by Councillor Broughton. Do we have a second? Okay, I'll second that. Discussion. Please raise your hand. Okay, I'll just lead off. As Mr. Blackwell's mentioned, the Ombudsperson has made these recommendations for transparency and bringing the community alongside. Is there any other comments? That's my only comments. Councillor Broughton.
Who is the Bear Smart Committee currently? Is that known or?
Councillor Abbott. Who are the members of the Bear Smart Committee?
We've answered that before.
Can you please answer?
So I can do it again.
Public?
Yeah, I can do it again. We've done this before. Currently it is Norma Rogers, Amber Brown, Penny Nelson, and I tend as the liaison. I'm not part of the committee.
So it's a committee of 4.
committee of three with a council
Committee
liaison.
with three with the council.
It's not it's not a committee. Once again,
It's a working group.
it's a community-based group. Those are the three key members. There are others that contribute. There are people that contribute from the North Bay Black Bay Society frequently. So they are three key Lions Bay members, but they gather information for all kinds of Bay Smart working groups.
Okay.
Mr.
And share
Blackwell,
information.
you had mentioned before that you're recommending that, there's a rotation to council members on these various committees. Can you give us some background on that?
Yes. So before I do, I just want to make clear that I'm not necessarily recommending any specific outcome. There are three different options for council to consider. Each option has pros and cons. My only goal is to make sure that I am fulfilling the expectations of the ombudsperson's office, and there's different ways to do that. So how is up to you. Once I know, I'll make that happen. So with regard to what you were speaking about, so it's common in what's typical, it's how business is done. The beginning of a new council term, various committees are established, and then council chooses to appoint various representatives to those committees, typically aligned with their areas of interest or expertise, but not always. And then what happens is that council will then, on an annual basis, rotate those positions so that the voices in those committees are varied, and there's a more a greater cross section of ideas and so forth that get inculcated in the overall conversation. Sometimes it's every 2 years. I think council hasn't. Well, since I've been with the village, council has the appointees haven't really changed. There's been a few adjustments. I think primarily on the infrastructure committee. There's been some additions of more councillors, but fundamentally, there's no sort of a formal protocol around rotating who sits on what committee. Is that where what you were asking?
Yeah. Councillor Cunliffe?
Thank you for the tutorial, Ross. Appreciate that. Going into the next council, everyone has a deeper understanding of that. I would request that we call the question so we can come to a conclusion on which one of these options is.
Okay, we'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion defeated. Next motion is that Bear Smart continue with the existing community-based working group model with enhanced reporting to council through regular agenda items. This would maintain the current structure while improving transparency through publicly accessible council records. Do we have a motion for that? Moved by Councillor McLaughlin, seconded by Councillor Cunliffe. Discussion. Councillor Abbott, then Councillor Cunliffe.
First of all, up until now, we didn't understand the source of this. And I believed anything to do with the ombudsperson was meant to be confidential, so I'm not sure why we're openly discussing that. But now understanding that, I understand the request that was given to me, and I'm going to try to stay away from ombudsperson stuff, which is confidential. I understand the request that was given to me in the previous month to start reporting regularly, why this thing was put on the agenda, although it was never explained to me at the time. And if that's what we need to do, I will, like I did tonight, bring reports on a regular basis. If that satisfies this ask, which I think is what this option 2 is saying. So I think that would be to me, that would be acceptable.
Okay, Councillor Cunliffe.
I would agree with the sentiments, and I think making it a more formal committee may drive off future members that do not wish to get caught up in government bureaucracy, essentially. I did check in with a fellow councillor for the Whistler municipality, and they do not have, well, they do have a working group in their community that does awareness, etc. They do not have anybody that is formally coming to council. So I think that this is much more in step with kind of the grassroots movement in these communities.
Okay, Councillor Broughton, then we'll call a question.
So, well, I've just heard the makeup of the Bear Smart what is it called, working group?
No, the working group is the Conservation Office Services meeting that we have. That's the Best Mod working group.
That's the working group.
Yeah.
What is the group that of four?
Well,
that
it's
you-
always
three
been called
plus one?
Lions Bay Best Mod Committee, unfortunately. It's always
Okay.
been called that.
Right,
We've started to call it the Lions Bay Best Mod Team, just to try to take this
get away from the
committee away.
committee
It's
concept.
confusing everyone, yes.
Okay,
But the name has always been that. That's what's in the working plan that was produced in 2010, which you're well aware of.
Yes.
So that name is
yeah,
formally
very
there.
supportive of Bear Smart.
Yes,
Yeah.
that name is formally there.
Yeah.
However, we try not to use the term committee. It's not.
Okay, because the last time I asked, the last time I recall understanding who were the membership of the committee, you were the chair. But you were not the chair as a member of council, you were a chair as a resident. And Penny Nelson, your wife, was on the committee. Mr.
Sorry,
Roy,
sorry, I just correct you.
Mr. Roy.
Sorry, can I correct you? I need to correct mine.
Oh, sure.
Can I correct you? When Marcus was on the committee at
Yes.
the beginning of this term, and I was the chair,
Yes,
Penny was not involved. Brigida Shaw was the communicator, Amber Brown was involved, Norm was not involved. I've never been the chair with Penny on a committee. That's never happened.
oh, okay, well, thank you for that clarification.
Uh,
Okay, so you're the chair,
Currently, no,
Marcus Ryder
yes, at the time.
was the council representative.
Yeah.
And Norma Rogers was on the
No,
committee.
no, at that time Norma Rogers had stepped back from it, if you recall. So we started a new group. It was Brigitte Shaw, David Zhu.
But they haven't been involved for years.
I think Brigida's been off since the
In the
beginning,
begin- in the
of
big-
2023.
3.5 years.
In the beginning of this council, when you talked to Marcus Roy and myself being involved,
Yeah.
it was Brigitte Shaw, David Zhu, I think Amber Brown. And at one stage there was one other resident whose name I forgot.
You had an IT person, I believe.
That was David Zhu, I think is his name, from Calvin
Oh, okay.
Grove.
That wasn't what I thought it was.
Through Demir.
Oh, sorry, you're right.
Counselor, where are you
on
going with
Baker
this?
Street.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand the membership of the outside group.
Yeah, there was another.
Because I just heard a new combination, and so just to better understand.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
So are we going to have, I know the last meeting that was held, there were 3 staff invited. Are we going to have updates along with this as well then? Or is it going to be open to the public as well?
The updates from the meeting?
Yeah, sorry, the meeting updates will be provided, but what about the open to the public? Can the public participate in these? Because
In the working group?
well, so when the meetings are called, can the public show up and listen in? Because that's I think what my understanding, what the ombudsperson would want is transparency.
So no, can you ring the meeting? The conservation office will very clear about that. That's a meeting and who's in it. It's not a public attended meeting. It was director of operations, CAO, bylaw, RCP in some communities, conservation office service, and a representative of the Bear working group, the Bear.
Okay,
sorry,
I
community-
asked a difficult question because when I was in that meeting, and I think first of all, Bear Smart does wonderful things, and I think we all moved to this community for the wildlife, the nature. I think that's what drew most of us, at least it drew my family. When I see 3 staff members in a meeting that isn't open to the public, I get concerned because we have the one employee model, which is things go through the CAO. At the particular meetings, we start getting sort of a subtle, and this is sort of the elephant in the room. There's a power position, and when we're directing staff to increase various activities, this and that, I think it can be problematic. That's why I'm open to having the public there and making this a committee, but that's been voted down. But how do we keep that sort of openness and we don't micromanage our staff? Because that makes it difficult. Our staff, we've spent tens of thousands protecting our
Can I
staff.
speak to that?
I
And
think
the
we're
staff-
just trying to come up with an alternative that will satisfy the requirements that have been brought
Fair enough.
to the CAO as concerns. And I believe there's a motion on the table.
I'm gonna call the question, but again, the bigger.
Can I just speak to what
The
you're
elephant in
saying?
the room is how do we not micromanage our staff and put more stress on them, and rather than deal through our CAO?
Okay, I'll
Councillor
just speak
Adams.
to that one last time. You're talking about the working group. Conservation officers decide who comes. The CAO is meant to be there. He was ill or busy, sorry, I think he was busy. He couldn't attend. So we don't get to decide the composition of that group. The working group in every community is the
So
same
we had the
thing.
bylaw officer there and we had,
Yes.
the director of operations.
Did you listen? Kenny told you who he wants there. He told you the list of people that have to be there. It was the bylaw officer. Some municipalities, the RCMP. It was the director of operations. It was the CIO. He asked for those people to be present. And one member of council as a liaison. We don't make the rules up. Every community does it the same way. Let's just call this question, please.
Okay. I'll call the question. All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, next item. Park and demand, and that is 8.1.3. And Eric, we'll pass it over to you to walk us through your report to council.
Thank you, Mayor Barry. So the report is in front of you in the agenda package. The report responds to the March 30th direction to refine options for managing parking demand. I'll briefly summarize the findings related to towing practices, increasing parking supply, and use of parking notice boards. So first, the towing practices. Current towing policy attached to the report is also available on the village website. Allows immediate towing in several situations related to safety risk. However, the policy does allow immediate towing for parking infractions in the 3 parking lots. In practice, staff emphasize ticketing over towing for parking enforcement. However, the village does have a contract with the towing company for towing warranted. Also included in the report, since it relates to parking enforcement, is the current ticketing practice, which includes a 15-minute grace period when a ticket is not issued if the vehicle's parking is expired within 15 minutes of parking patrol. Staff have provided 2 recommended options for council's consideration. First is amending the current towing policy by introducing a 3 strikes tow warning and notice system to request a tow after the 4th infraction of a vehicle with unpaid tickets. Amending the policy would provide a more rigid framework for staff to enforce towing. The second is eliminating the 15-minute grace period after paid parking expires. Eliminating the grace period strengthens towing enforcement by allowing bylaw to issue tickets immediately when paid parking expires. Since towing is recommended only after multiple unpaid tickets, removing the delay makes the 3 strike system more effective and ensures consistent enforcement. Regarding item 2, increasing parking supply, staff identified 2 locations on Mountain Drive where minor shoulder improvements could create additional paid parking spaces. Approximately 6 at the 340 block and 11 spaces near Timbertop. Staff also reviewed opportunities to adjust existing annual permit zones so that they remain permit only overnight but operate as paid parking during the day. The change would open roughly 20 additional daytime spaces while preserving overnight parking for residents. Council may wish to further expand on the adjustment to annual paid permit zones to include areas near beach parks to open more daytime parking to visitors while preserving overnight parking for residents. This report provided focus on primarily on the Sunset parking lot, where I understood the majority of the parking issues to be addressed or located. The third item for consideration was the parking notice boards. Bylaws have already implemented the paid full beyond sign at Mountain Drive and Bayview, as noted in the report, pictures noted in the report. Procedures have been updated and no further action is required at this time in this item. In terms of overall costs, the 2 shoulder improvement projects total just over $5,000. Signage changes are approximately $500 and towing policy updates are administrative only. Staff recommend proceeding with the towing policy amendment, eliminating the grace period, adding the new parking spaces on Mountain Drive, and adjusting the permit-only zones to allow daytime paid parking. Council may proceed with these recommendations, take no action, or provide alternative direction to staff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. It looks like we have 4 recommendations on this. I think we will break these up and go individually, if that's fine with council.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, first motion would be amend the towing policy to implement 3 strikes, tow warning and notice procedure. Do we have a motion for that? Moved by Councilor Conlon, second. Do we have a second?
We'll put it on the
Okay.
table for discussion.
Seconded by Councilor Abbott. Discussion, please raise your hand. Councilor Conlon. You moved it.
Well, we can discuss it. I like it. I think though that maybe we're being overly generous by allowing people 3 parking infractions and not paying their tickets and causing staff time to follow up with those and not towing them prior. I don't know how many times you go to an in-park lot and you don't pay your ticket and the next time you park, they put a boot on your car. So I think I'd like to see that a little more rigid. That's my thoughts.
Okay, Councilor McLaughlin.
Thank you. I would ask the Director of Operations, how many accrued tickets do we have that are 3 strikes out?
What?
How many frequent flyers or 3 strikeouts are there in our book?
Derek, you happen to know that?
I don't have that information on hand, no, but.
Is there information?
Pardon me?
Is there information?
I believe that information is available through the bylaw parking management software.
Okay, so
through discussions with our bylaw officer, it is possible to track this.
Okay, Councilor Broughton.
Yeah, I think there's an incomplete piece here. We were going to look at the cost of our tickets. And I don't know where that went, but because there was certainly a thought that the tickets at $195 were with $100 if you paid within a certain period of time was excessive, and it was actually creating more problems than it was solving in terms of collections and so on. So I think before I want to support the more rigid towing policy, I'd like to make sure that the policy that we have in place is fair. And there are some people who are not going to pay regardless, and then that's challenging. But so I would like to defer that piece at this point. The 15-minute, removing the 15 minutes.
I think we were going one by one, sorry.
We're going one.
Is that a separate?
No, that's the same one.
Is that the
No,
same one?
we're going one by
The
one.
towing.
We're on number 1.
We're talking simply.
There's one question, Eric.
But is it-
What's the weakness in the current towing policy? Or do you?
There's no weakness per se, it's the policy states that towing can occur after the first infraction. In practice, that's very expensive and very punitive. Staff don't consider that a reasonable, a reasonable way to do anything, to conduct business. By changing, the 3 strikes can be modified by council if you wish. My understanding is, the 3 strikes and then tow is consistent with Kamloops. I know our bylaw officer came from there and has suggested this. There could be 1 strike and tow, 2 strike and tow. The problem with towing is that it's very expensive for the user. In this location, it generally strands them. Depending on the time of day, there may not be transit available, or it's very expensive to find an Uber or some other means of getting home. The tow is expensive because it's going to Squamish with our current provider. So kilometer-based fee, and then the impound fee. So the towing as an enforcement tool can be useful, but not in terms of first principle or first infraction. So I think we would get far more disputes if we start ticketing more. But this change would provide a better framework for staff to work within a towing enforcement policy instead of broad one infraction and we may tow, it provides a little too much discretion for staff. And some additional framework would be helpful.
Thank you for that. Councilor McLaughlin.
I'm on my second round. Mayor Barry.
Second, I haven't spoken.
Councilor Abbott.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so a few things. I think the existing policy is fine the way it is. It has been utilized before. I do think giving the bylaw some discretion makes sense. Because there may be a situation where he wants to tow someone on the first line, or not necessarily the first, maybe the second infraction, because of where it is, because of the guy's behavior, if he's making things unsafe, if he's parked, is creating a hazard, those kind of things, which is already allowed. I don't know that we need to dictate the number that gives him no description. Yeah, when he counts to 3, someone has to go. So I don't know that it helps. So I'm quite happy to leave it the way it is. We have a new bylaw officer. I think he's doing a great job. I bumped into him twice on the weekend. I think he's got the right attitude. He's the right kind of person. I think he could do well with just having a little bit of flexibility. As to the 15 minutes, I don't know if anyone in this room's never got a
That's the
ticket.
next.
Oh, is that a
Yeah.
different discussion?
So I'll call a question.
If I may,
Yeah.
Mayor, the motion or the recommendation is to modify policy 1H of the towing policy, which is specifically addressing unpaid parking tickets. The rest of the policy in terms of towing for safety or blocking hydrants and blocking accessibility, that isn't on the table.
Okay, so-
Okay.
So the specific change is you want 3 strikes.
Correct.
All right, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Yeah, I'll go with it.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, next motion is eliminate the 15-minute grace period for parking infractions. Do we have a motion for that?
Sure.
Moved by Councilor McLaughlin, second. Is there a second? Councilor Abbott? Okay, discussion. Councilor Bowden?
I don't think you gain anything by tightening things up. And I think you lose in PR, if you like. We have enough challenges around hiking, parking issues and so on. If there's a perception that somebody's sort of hiding behind a tree waiting for your ticket to expire, that's a real problem. I think the 15-minute, it buys some grace generally, so I would support changing that.
Okay, any other comments, Councilor McLaughlin?
Thank you.
Comments?
I sided with Council Burton in a general way. 15 minutes. Somebody they have to tie their shoelace or their ankle hurts or who knows what. A different way. I'm not stuck in the 15 minutes. I think an hour, that's fine. The bylaw officers are busy, even if they had the pre-done warning notes. Smack it on the windshield. 8 times passed. We're looking at honor the commitment kind of thing. And give them a little bit more time.
Councilor Conlon?
I agree with most of the councillors.
Okay, I'll call the question.
Yes,
Eric?
could I play a little bit of devil's advocate?
All
if you don't
right, go
mind?
ahead. Councilor Abbott, we'll go back to Eric.
A little bit of devil's advocate, if you don't mind. I think, is this something the new bylaw officer has asked for?
Eric?
Through the chair, after the discussions around towing enforcement, this came up as just part of the current procedure, like operating practice that the bylaw officers are.
Because I think there's another circumstance, and it's not, and I don't think it's about gotcha in 15 minutes. If he comes by and someone's things expired, and then he's got to go do his rounds, and now he's at Brunswick Beach, and he looks at his watch and it's 16 minutes. Now, in order to go issue that ticket, he now has to drive all the way from Brunswick Beach, all the way back up to Sunset Drive, because he had to give the guy an extra 15 minutes. I think that might be creating a logistical problem for them. So I think that maybe we should just leave it as it is. If he sees an infraction, he can park it. That's the way it currently stands.
Okay, Eric has his hand up. Go ahead.
Through the chair, no, so the current practice is the bylaw officers are, there's one per shift, basically, right, we have 3 seasonal, but, and they've covered the whole village. They've got, maybe in an hour, they're covering all the, pay areas and the parking lots, and he may do parking enforcement every 3 hours. So when he arrives at a car with an unpaid ticket that expired 5 minutes ago, like say he arrives at 1:05, if the parking ticket expired at 1 o'clock, they're within the 15-minute grace period because it's 5 minutes after the ticket expires. The procedure is not to go, if it's an hour expired, that does not give them an hour 15 of a grace period. That would be an immediate ticket upon the enforcement rotation occurring. It's the 15-minute grace period is when the bylaw officer arrives, the ticket has been, the parking expired for up to 15 minutes at the arrival time. And then they provide just a general way. That's the grace period.
Yeah. So to my point, I think it can create logistical issues for them. They're going to have to come back because 15 minutes haven't expired. So I'm happy to go with the recommendation.
Okay, I'm gonna go to Eric and then call the question. Eric?
The procedure is not.
We understand.
I'm not sure is understood because he does not coming back after 15 minutes. He would continue his course.
If they're still there 2 hours later.
If he's still there 2 hours later on his next round.
They dodged the bullet. Pardon me.
Please go through the chair, otherwise it ends up being a free-for-all, okay?
I apologize.
That's the decorum. All right, so just to remind everybody. Okay, Eric, anything else?
No, nothing else.
All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, next item is the motion is to add parking spaces at 340 and 350 Mountain Drive. Do we have a motion for that? Do we have a motion?
I think the silence says everything.
Okay.
Yeah, I please put a motion forward just to speak to.
Okay, do we have a seconder?
Just let me speak to.
Okay,
sure.
Moved by Councillor Abbott, second by Councillor Cunliffe, and Councillor Abbott, you have the floor.
Okay, I'm firmly against this. And the only reason why I've interrupted this is because I didn't understand why staff had done this. Just this particular filling in the culverts and creating the grading. I went and looked at the previous minutes and there was a resolution passed to increase parking. And I was surprised by that. It was passed 3-2. I was surprised by that. So I went and listened to the minutes of the meeting. And that topic starts with the discussion. I spoke first and I said, this is an absolute non-starter for me. Everyone spoke about it and everyone was opposed to that particular item, filling in the ditches. Then there was another discussion, I think started by Councillor Broughton or Mayor Berry, that was about a softer, more, what if there was parking elsewhere in the world kind of thing, not about driving additional, and that's what was approved. So technically, I don't think you had the recommendation you wanted. I would like us to rescind that recommendation or reconsider that recommendation, the previous one, about finding additional parking spaces. I think we need to clean it up there.
Okay, we've got a motion on the table. We're speaking to that. Councillor Cunliffe?
I would just like to say, I believe that is being addressed with the very beginning, with the ongoing discussions about the gravel pit. And I don't agree with any sort of increase in parking in the village and opening up permits and et cetera. But that additional parking piece, from my understanding, was specifically with the gravel pit and what we need to do with the province to have that come to fruition. So that's all I have to say about that.
I don't recall about parking anywhere in the world. I think we were talking about the gravel pit.
Yes, but I'm saying outside of.
Excuse me, Councillor. Yeah. Abbott, through the chair, we're not gonna have a conversation jumping all around, okay?
So.
All right.
Yeah. So
Councillor Broughton, then we'll go to Councillor Abbott.
So I believe we're gonna be dealing with that item a little bit later.
Correct.
But I completely do not support this on a number of levels. First of all, additional parking within the village, I do not support. Filling in the ditches, I have real concerns about. And if we're talking, $5,000 plus 5 days of staff time, we have other significant expenses that we need to undertake.
Councillor Abbott, no, we'll call the question.
All I'm trying to ensure, if we defeat this, which it sounds like we're going to, that staff do not believe they have a direction from council to go find more parking within the village, Bayview next, Timbertops next. I think we need to make clear that was a misunderstanding. We do not want to look at more parking within the village, and especially within the current areas that are highly trafficked.
Okay.
That's all I'm trying to make
Before I call the question, I did forward the parking task force from March 19th, 2024 to Eric, and again, that was a 90-day process that over, I think it was 15 to 20 residents participated in. So I think that's valuable maybe for staff to take a look at it. And
Ross has his hand up.
yeah, Mr. Blackwell.
Just further information for your consideration either now or later. I want to just return your attention back to what Ms. Monfred spoke about. There's a lot of misunderstanding around parking. In fact, roadside parking slows traffic. It's one of the traffic calming measures. So a lot of these technical aspects aren't understood, and people speak to them based on sort of their emotive perspective. And it's important for council to have technical information to make this decision on, not just sort of speculation or perception, etc. There are standard engineering practices that speak to things like sight lines. There's a number of, for instance, most of the roads are not actually constructed to MMCD standard. There's lots of blind corners that's been spoken about. There's no sort of pathways or walkways to get people off the carriageways, etc. So this notion of having a demand management study and I lost the word, can't think of the word, the alternate, the mobility sort of assessment. If council directed that be done, at least council would then be making fully informed decisions around these topics, and you would avoid sort of knee-jerk decisions.
Okay, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion defeated. Okay, next motion, very similar, other than parking spaces at Mountain Drive at Timbertop. Do we have a motion for that?
So why it says
Add parking spaces at Mountain Drive and Timbertop.
So what did we just do?
We just did
voted
Mountain Drive.
Sorry, through
We
the
did
chair.
not-
Oh, sorry.
You've just done it.
Yeah, sorry, got it,
Number 4.
number 4. It says Mountain Drive. I'm just reading right from script. So, it's Timbertop then. We'll eliminate Mountain Drive. Do we have a motion for that? Okay, no motion,
Defeated.
okay. When we move to the next item,
Actually, sorry, through the chair, there's a number 5 just on the next page.
Yeah.
In regards to modifying the permit zones.
okay, bear with me.
I can read it out.
Yeah, let me read it.
To modify the annual permit required zones to permit only 8 PM to 7 AM and pay parking 7 AM to 8 PM on Sunset Drive and Mountain Drive at 280.
Okay, do we have a motion for that? Do we have a motion? Going once, going twice, going 3 times, no motion, okay, defeated. All right, we'll move to the move from the committees, move to 8.3.2, Beach Park Watercraft Storage, Councilor Broughton, we'll move over to you. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for coming down.
Thanks very much.
Okay, Councilor Broughton.
Okay, second.
Page 51. Okay, the motion is that staff execute the replacement of a minimum of 60 watercraft storage spaces for various lengths of kayaks and paddle boards, and that staff place the watercraft storage in one or more sites, including the northwest corner of Lions Bay Beach Park, behind the washrooms to the south, and possible alternative sites include Calvin Grove Beach Park. and that the racks be Whistler-like 6x6 structures consistent with Lions Bay Field, and that staff arrange or execute the construction of watercraft storage racks for occupancy by June 1st, 2026. Do we have a motion for that?
I'd like to move that motion.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, second by Councillor Cunliffe. Discussion, Councillor Broughton, it was your motion. We'll go to you first, then we'll go to Councillor Talbot. Councillor Cunliffe.
Could I do a point of order if you don't mind?
Well, we normally go to the.
It's a small one, just.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we seem to have two competing options here to do the same thing.
Yeah, they're different on the agenda, so we're going to come to Councillor McLaughlin.
Friendly suggestion. Could we hear from both before we vote?
Well, I think this is gonna be we've got a motion on the table. We'll speak for the motion. And I believe it will encompass the Councillor McLaughlin's, but if it doesn't, we'll move to Councillor McLaughlin's motion, which is next on the agenda. Okay, Councillor Broughton, it's been moved and seconded. You're the first speaker.
Okay, the watercraft storage, as is outlined in the motion, was a key part of the beach park revitalization. And I think the community clearly believed that the watercraft storage would be replaced. There's certainly been a lot of concern by people who have taken their craft home and waiting to have it returned. There's some information that the Beechcraft storage was underutilized in the last year or so. The thing became decrepit, was basically falling down. People were concerned about leaving their craft there. There was different mixed messages about when the craft was going to be removed and so on. In fact, the beach park really went into serious disrepair for a couple of years because very little funds were spent on it from 2023 and 2024, including the Beechcraft material. I repeatedly have requested reports on the beach park and repeatedly had those removed from the agenda. And I'm very concerned that we're in the position that we are now as a result of this matter not being actively discussed in July and September of last year, including the construction of the jetty, the original plan of the jetty and the involvement of Mr. Christie in that had a means of launching Beechcraft off the north side. Ultimately, when the jetty was put in, that has not occurred. That's unfortunate, but that's where we are at this point in time. I'd like to. There's all sorts of background here, but essentially, I think I prefer to keep out of any kind of blame and move towards action. I think we need to get a reasonable number of watercraft storage spots in place in a very timely way in the next few weeks, so that they can be used for the summer. They're highly valued, highly used by the residents of the community. Sunday, I took pictures of different watercraft paddling by, and what I really took notice of was the age of the paddlers, and they were all sort of 14 to 16 years of age, and having a wonderful time on the Sunday afternoon. And they did not load their watercraft onto the roofs of their car, truck it down to the beach park, slog it through the park, and to get out onto the water. People love access to Howe Sound. One of the major features of the beach park was having watercraft storage. It's absolutely imperative that council get those in place. And I think they can be quite simply done without destruction of the park. I think we could, we've met on site. I believe that we can particularly stand the SUPs, stand up paddle boards. Quite a number of them can be stored over on the northwest corner. And I believe that we'll need to store kayaks up in the area, perhaps behind where the new washroom. It's unfortunate, it's not optimal, but we need to address this issue. I think that we can look at alternate locations within the community as well. I think we need to get creative here, but we do need to address this issue. This is a highly valued asset of the community. There was a survey done, and I believe it was one of the most highly valued aspects of the beach park. So I'm suggesting that we had a motion, I believe, in September. Staff presented a summary of requested financials for the beach park project. A contingency budget has been created so as to expedite any project expenditures, therefore not requiring a special meeting for council approval. If the funds are not required, the contingency will remain unchanged. I'm assuming that the contingency fund still exists. I would suggest that for well under the $35,000 that was originally budgeted for this, that we could put in some Whistler-like sort of 6x6 posts with aluminum or steel attachments, or potentially even wooden attachments, but that we could get this done. In the typical fashion that Lions Bay operates, we can get it done. If we want it done, we'll get it done.
Okay. Thank you for that, Councillor. But would you consider a friendly amendment, maybe in the spirit of time, extending that deadline to say June 20th, and maybe lowering 60 watercrafts down to 40, just to help the process along? And this
I
would be
would
the first phase, and
be
they can
open
come.
to whatever makes this work.
Okay.
But and so, yeah, I would see that as a friendly amendment. I believe that we do need to move that over time, though. I would say for the June 20th, we look at the 40, and then we look at a minimum of 60 for next season.
Okay.
And I'd be comfortable with that, because we had the statistics that were provided was there were 61 units and with a wait list 2 years ago, but that went downhill. But I could address.
Okay, that was moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Cunliffe. Would you move and second the friendly amendment?
Could I speak to the friendly amendment and suggest, because the time frame is something that I'm a bit stuck on. As well, I did see Councillor McLaughlin's motion, and I think there is value in putting together some sort of working group. I like the tiered sort of expectation of, could we make it 20 by June 20th? So we've got 20 for those that find it very problematic to be able to move their craft and are committed to using it all the time. 40 by a certain date, but maybe, or push it to July for 40, but see if Councillor McLaughlin, because I would be in favor of putting a committee of some sort together of the high volume users, and see what kind of recommendations in the next, I don't know, how fast can you get a group of people together in the next several weeks to roll out a phase 1, 2, and 3 approach? That's just spitballing. I don't know if we can have a discussion on how people feel about that. But I do see a sense of urgency and timing to make something happen in the short term, but to deliver on the project in its entirety in a short period of time, I think that it could have a more thoughtful sort of.
Okay, I think it's pretty straightforward in the direction that Councillor Broughton has put forward, so I'm fine with this. Councillor Abbott?
Yeah, I'm a little concerned with being too prescriptive. I think Councillor Cannon's right. I think we need to just have some flexibility. We want to get it done fast. We want to make sure we've got watercraft as soon as possible. I think everyone wants this done. There's no doubt about that. I think Councillor McLaughlin's suggestion of getting, and not taking time on doing this, getting a group of frequent users together, and beachgoers, look at the best option, come up with an answer, and immediately go and execute. I don't like the idea of us prescribing the exact solution, where they're going, the size of the posts. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves as a council doing that. So I would vote against this, so I could vote for the next one, even if we can't talk about it both at the same time.
I'm gonna call the question. All in favor?
Before you do, sorry.
Yeah, okay, I'll go to Eric first, and then Mr. Blackwell.
Through the chair, just in general, when specifying a completion date on any construction project, that tends to either raise costs or decrease quality. My recommendation would be to provide some flexibility in this resolution for staff to deliver this. I do understand the urgency in the community and in this council chamber. But my recommendation would be to provide a bit of flexibility for staff to deliver this.
Okay, how would you do that? What would it look like?
Eliminating the date and just, like council or staff understands this, the urgency for this. I think the date is problematic. If it's a best before then date, we have to convey that to any contractors, and they're gonna just price or quality accordingly.
Okay. Mr. Blackwell.
Yeah, I was going to sort of comment on precisely what was just stated, but I would also say, to do things properly, council should normally ask for a report from staff that identifies options and costs in terms of different materials, different options, and so forth. Again, I've warned staff or council about falling into the bear trap of knee-jerk reactions with your decision making. It's always best to follow sort of a clear path forward, so it's whatever decisions are made are defensible. And so, plowing forward. So first of all, June 20th is probably not doable. Second of all, how's that going to be done? It's not public works staff that's going to do it. They're fully committed. So now we have to go to an RFP. Well, it's a busy season, and the contractors are all quite busy. So not only will they be charging a premium, they're also probably not available. So what would be best is if we could scope this out in more detail for council, so council was better informed and could make a more fulsome decision around this.
Okay, we'll go Councillor Broughton and then Councillor Cullen.
We are not building a sophisticated structure. And in fact, there are racks available, and there are multiple options. This item was removed from the agenda 5 times between July and October of last year. And that has put us in this position. And now we're saying, well, let's just take more time and we can do this. This needs to get done ahead of the summertime. Ideally, it was to be done by May 24th weekend is a real target for this community. But they're not sophisticated structures. And I think what is needed here is the will to do it. And so far, quite frankly, I have not been experiencing a high will to get this done. And so I'm very, very concerned about it. The community the people who are directly involved in this are very, very offended by it, and appropriately so. They had a reasonable expectation, and that has not occurred. We've had very sophisticated letters provided to us, and I think we need to move ahead on this.
Okay, my feedback is, look, this is an indication of council not being able to make decisions. We struck this from the council, or this council table struck this discussion 5 times off agenda items. I don't wish to direct, micromanage staff, but I do think we need to get going on this, and it's not rocket science in my opinion. So I'm gonna call the question and we can move on to the next item. Okay, all in favor?
I'm not sure that everybody's had an opportunity to weigh in.
Yeah.
Well, we'll speak twice. Do we have?
I haven't spoken. to
Okay, I'm gonna go to Councillor Abbott. You've got 5 minutes.
And once again, 5 minutes, I'm gonna 3 speak twice. And I've
5 minutes.
already used a couple, so I need 3. And we are only talking about Councillor McLaughlin.
Correct.
Councillor
The motions are on the table. We speak to the motions, and then we'll go to the next
Motion
item.
as amended.
Yeah,
So
we've spoken about various things. I just want to make clear that's what we do. Okay, I just want to touch on a couple of points. I think he stopped going on about we removed this item 5 times. We did not remove this item. We didn't discuss this item. That was the problem. This council, or some members of the council.
Okay,
I just
point of order.
No, keep
No.
talking.
Well, is it a point of order or not?
This council removed this from the project scope of the architect,
No.
of the scope of the
That's not what we're
architect,
talking about.
but not from the project. That was where.
Councillor Brown will come to you
So-
afterwards.
Okay, that's where things went wrong. There's been requests from Councillor Broughton to get the beach park project back discussed. At no point did council decide they didn't want to discuss the beach the kayak racks, because we all thought it was happening. Every single one of us thought it was happening. I think every single one of us is completely surprised to see it didn't happen. But let's not focus on that. Let's focus on how we can get this thing done now and get it done fast. I think
To
we
the
can do-
motion, please.
I'm speaking the motion. I think we can do it quickly, but I think we need to get resident input. I think Councillor McLaughlin's item is coming up second. It involves getting some of the regular users together, coming up with a good solution is a better chance of success than what's been prescribed in this first motion. So I'm gonna have to say no to this in order to say yes to the next.
Okay, we're gonna go to Councillor Broughton, then we'll go to Councillor Conlon. Councillor Broughton,
That would be the 3rd or 4th time Councillor Broughton's spoken.
he did put his hand up, so.
We're allowing
Doesn't he get
unlimited discussion.
Okay. Councillor Broughton,
Doesn't he
you
get
fine
two?
with Councillor Conlon speaking now?
Go ahead.
Okay, Councillor Conlon.
I would like to suggest that we table this motion as well as the following motion. And as staff did suggest, bring a report together at our committee of the whole. We're having an open council meeting following to discuss other matters. See how quickly Councillor McLaughlin can reach out to a group. See what kind of time frame that you can get some people together to sort of start the discussion. I can't get on board with constricting staff with timeframes and having something that was intended to, be under $34,000 suddenly end up being $120,000. For 60 units, I can't wrap my head around that. So I feel like we're trying to cram something through a little bit too quickly, and a pause. What I don't really like about Councillor McLaughlin's suggestion is September. I like
We're
something much
speaking of the
sooner.
motion on the
Yes,
table.
but I do believe that's why I'm suggesting that we table these 2 motions for tonight and bring them back in a week's time.
Okay, I'd like
Point of
to just speak
information.
and then I'll come back to you and Councillor McLaughlin, you had your hand up. I'll say earlier in the meeting, Councillor McLaughlin put a request in for monthly reporting. I recognize Councillor Broughton's attempts to get the beach park on the agendas repeatedly, as well as Botanic Creek. And so, in my mind, we've had enough discussion, we've heard from the community. We just need to give our staff some guidance. And with that, I'll go to Councillor
Point of
Broughton, and I'll go to
information.
Councillor
For the
McLaughlin.
6th time, you're allowing the proponent to speak.
He's had the motion on the table. I'll take Councillor Broughton, I'm gonna go to Councillor McLaughlin.
Mayor
Councillor
Barry,
McLaughlin.
I suggest, in the spirit of getting through into this, that you temporarily table this and you go to my motion. I'll ask for the motion to be approved or not. If it fails, it goes back to Council President.
Fair enough. We're gonna, Councillor Broughton, would you like to call, I can call a question now. We can dispense with your motions. And then we can go on to the next.
If I may, if you want, if you would like to defer the motion to later in the agenda, it needs a resolution to do that.
Okay, I'm gonna call the question, the original question. All in favor of the original
So
question?
no, we've got a motion to defer it to later in the.
I would
Motion
motion to defer till.
Okay,
I
do
will
we have a
second that.
second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion to defer. Opposed, so it's, you're for or against?
I'll defer.
Defer, okay, it's deferred. We'll go to the next motion on the table, and that is Councillor McLaughlin.
That would mean that the motion's been defeated.
No.
we
No,
deferred-
defer.
we deferred, that's it.
Deferred,
They can speak.
defer.
All right.
Motion.
Thank you very much. I'll be significantly less time.
Hmm.
Which actually, let's cut to the quick on this one. The beach parks have been under this council's watch since they took office in November 22. Here we are in May, coming close but not near there, finding deficiencies. And, you know, Councillor Broughton's big on trying not to find blame, but naming blame. You know,
Okay, I'm gonna ask for the motion to be put on the table, and then we can speak to it,
Fine.
okay?
The
Please put
motion
your
is-
motion on the table.
that a volunteer study group comprised of past watercraft users and a skilled project manager with construction experience be formed with a view to making recommendations to council on style, number of spaces, location or locations, qualification of users, and a proposed budget for council's consideration in September. Concurrence is requested I be given the lead and choose the study group to bring recommendations to council. I put that motion forward. May I have a second?
Okay, Councillor Connell,
Thank
second,
you. I'll
and,
speak then.
yeah,
Thank you.
Councillor McLaughlin.
Getting right to the point. This has lingered long and been painful. Stop pointing the blame. The reality is we are here today because the beach park watercraft got missed. There's been resolutions that they be pulled by people you would hardly suspect would do that and then claim they didn't know it later. Here we are. The grass takes another month to grow. We're proposing that we tromp through this. If I confirm with the works manager, he's gonna tell you he doesn't have any staff to deal with it for the next 6 weeks or so. Why would we be allowing our staff to do stuff on the thing when we're about to open the park and have people being pushed away? Those are the things that the CAO has already told you. The reality here is that if you'd like to do something right for a change, you would carefully consider it, do it in a well thought out manner, pick the particular group that's most influenced, expand that to a greater group, which is the community. Do they really want this? Everybody says, yes, they do. Where do they want it? How many do they want it? Let's find out that before we start going ahead with construction. I'm open to suggestions, but I'm not going to deviate from what I put forward.
Okay, Councillor Broughton.
Yeah, there's nothing precluding in my motion the consultation from those actively involved. In fact, I would encourage that. But time is of the essence. We need to move forward. And so we need to move forward quickly. We should be involving the expertise that we need and the people involved.
Okay, any other speakers? Councillor Connell?
But not.
I like the spirit behind this motion better because it, for all of those reasons, it is critically thought out. We're actually engaging with the users. What I'm not a fan of is waiting until September. I would like to put forward a somewhat friendly motion that we could look to incorporate. If you could get a group together to kind of decide on what they like for design, what they like for location, and roll it out gradually and add to, but before September, because there are people that it is going to be an impediment on their enjoyment of the beach because they simply physically are not going to be able to move things up and down on a daily basis. And some of them do use it on a daily basis.
Okay, any other comments? Councillor Abbott?
I agree. I think a less prescriptive solution is what we need. We do need to get resident input, especially these user groups that have been using it frequently. And I agree we need to do it fast. So I'm happy to approve this, but take out the September deadline. Just put a deadline that we need to get this done as fast as we possibly can. We don't need to drag it out to September. I think we do need to find some provision, even if it's not the permanent provision, for people to be able to use their watercraft at the beach park now, next month, whenever they can walk on the grass, whatever that looks like.
Mayor?
McLaughlin.
Thank you very much, Mayor Berry. I think in the spirit of this, consideration in September, I'll put consideration as soon as possible. I think I can arrange this through the study group, get it going. Just spitballing here, as everybody likes to say, you know, with council's approval, and I'm sure with users that want to go there and maybe don't want to or can't always move their craft around, I'm sure council and bylaw could be somewhat generous in allowing them to attach it to the fences or put it in designated areas for temporary use, knowing that there's a safety issue. But I think there's some creative interim solutions we might use.
Okay, do we have a second for that? Councilor Cunliffe, all in favor? The amendment? Opposed? Okay, the overall, motion, all in favor?
Sorry, I'm not following the words here.
I think we just approved it, didn't we?
No, we approved.
Oh, the
amendment
September
here.
part?
Yeah,
So this is the whole
so all
nine
in
yards?
favor of the main motion?
The amended main. now.
Amended main motion.
Main motion.
Yes.
All in favor?
If I may, is the amendment just to strike in September?
As good as
Yeah,
soon as
the
possible.
amended main is strike September, so and that's
All
all
in favor?
favor.
With the understanding that temporary measures may be incorporated into the final.
As written,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
written.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mayor Barry, if I could.
Yeah.
Just want to address this because I don't want this to stick to staff. I want to be very, very clear. Their staff understands the urgency, so there is no lack of appetite on the part of staff. How this was left, and I have notes to this effect, how it was left is that as the Preach Park project was coming to the conclusion, council would then revisit the issue of where, what, how, why, when. Okay, we are there now. And the reason why council elected to do that is because the architect, based on the topography and informed by the contractor, said that the order of magnitude cost to put them in the northwest corner and for the architect to sign off on a design that met safety standards, it would be in the region of $300,000, which was beyond the scope of the project. So it was never de-scoped. It was just postponed until we are at where we are. Those are the facts, and it's important that they get out there.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll go to correspondence.
Mayor, if I may?
Yeah.
Sorry, and Mr. Broughton can speak afterwards if he wishes to. Let's call what the CAO Blackwell called the end of the history here.
We're gonna move on, because I can sense where this is going.
No, that's
So
fine.
we're gonna
Just-
move on here.
we're
Okay,
not looking
next
at-
item is correspondence. Councilor Broughton.
Mayor.
Yeah.
The deferred, 8.3.2, you want to bring that back?
That's already been covered. Sorry.
My motion.
8.3.3 was amended.
Yeah.
8.3.5.
Well, I
was
think
deferred.
it's been covered off. Deferred.
For
Well, yeah.
But if I could,
Councilor Broughton, do you want to bring that back?
it has to be voted on now.
It's covered off.
It needs to be,
It's not consistent.
it should be brought back and.
Voted on.
Dispense with, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd like to move it, we'll bring it back if
Yeah.
it's deferred. I'd like to put it back on the table
And discuss it, okay?
as well.
I think, all right, any more discussion on that? We'll call the
The
question.
motion is 40 units
40 units,
by June
June 21st.
by June 21st. And I'd just like to point out that that would not preclude active involvement by all the people suggested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
But it does put a.
do I need to read the motions again, or does council understand them?
No.
I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed?
Respectfully, if
Motion defeated. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to correspondence.
Okay. It's not my zone anymore.
Okay.
You're on.
I missed the memo.
I'm happy to cover for you if you'd like.
I see that there's a lot of discussion on watercraft, which I
I'll
think.
take all
has
of those
been-
if you'll let me.
Absolutely.
I think there's, just, maybe before we go into the general, there's just one specific, and that is the
Econ.
motion that the, Village of Lions Bay nominate Mayor Mike
Mike
Little,
Yes.
Mayor of the District of North Vancouver for election to the Econ.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, motion carried.
But thank you
Okay,
for
thank you,
your-
Counselor. Yeah, he's been fabulous. Counselor Fennell?
I don't think there's much to say about the permanent daylight savings. And the land clearing bylaw, is this,
With respect to the subdivision,
Yeah.
I think that's covered.
okay,
Yeah.
and so with that, everything else, I think we take as received. Unless there is a counselor that would like to pull something out to discuss.
All right, anybody want to pull anything? Counselor Broughton?
Well, I'd just like to thank the residents who submitted some very thoughtful letters. And on the watercraft storage. And really, you know, very thoughtful and very respectful.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, any good business?
Can I just pass a comment?
Yeah.
New business.
Counselor Abbott?
So there was a lot of emails that were submitted about the parking.
Yes.
There was one that at last count had 40 signatures from a resident on Mountain Drive. I would just like to thank the residents for the engagement.
Yeah.
And I assume they'll be published on the next agenda, but not be dealt with because we dealt with them tonight. We've got the right outcome. But I'd just like to acknowledge
Okay,
all of
Yeah.
that, all of that.
The,
all right,
second, perhaps the village update release on that particular piece for the community.
Mr. Blackwell, did you want to release on the parking, outcome?
We can take a stab at that. It's a bit complicated, but yeah, we can put something together.
Thank you.
I think that would be very helpful.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
So there
All right,
was one other thing that I did want to put out.
on new business?
No, I was trying to, I had my hand up earlier, I was trying to speak to the correspondence from Brian on Seaview Place. Is council prepared to consider this? And the suggestion is that we get a land clearing bylaw set up. Heard the CAO concerned that he doesn't have the bylaws that he needs in order to make some decisions. Whether it's a land clearing bylaw or whatever terminology we need to use, is this something we should be considering? And what bylaws do staff through the CAO believe would help him to be able to make some of these decisions?
Mr. Blackwell, any comments?
Yes, I think a land clearing bylaw is an excellent idea. It's a little surprising that there hasn't been one established. I don't know why. Perhaps there's some history that I'm unaware of, but I think given sort of the sensitivities, the sort of the physiological sensitivities of the landscape, that would make complete sense. And so to be clear, what that addresses is any removal of soil, land, or vegetation. So there'd be strict provisions, parameters around the process, managing erosion, and all soup to nuts sort of issues that we don't currently have. So I think it may not be enacted very frequently, but I think for those times that it would be valuable, it would be of an enormous benefit to the community. At least if I can bring something forward for sort of discussion of council, you can sink your teeth in it, kick it around, see what you think. It facilitates a discussion around that. You may at the end of the day decide, no, we don't like this sort of idea, which is fine.
All right, Councillor Abbott?
Just one last thing. Ross, and I forget the exact terminology, we have a soil deposition something bylaw in existence at the moment. Would it be more efficient to revise that document to include land clearing? Because some of what you just mentioned is already in there.
Very good.
Mr. Blackwell.
Thank you through the chair. I'm not familiar, Councillor Abbott, around the specific details of that. Usually, a soil deposition and extraction practice go together in one bylaw. Land clearing is usually different.
Take a look at it and see.
I'll take a look at it, yeah, for sure.
Okay, perhaps we can add that to the task list. Okay, any other items? New business?
Under new business, I guess I would like to say that Mr. Udo has sat here patiently all evening, and we could probably request that staff look into his request and report back, or
you just vote on
Let's not do that. You know, Barry, what I suggest is that situation come to us in a committee of the whole.
Yeah. We'll definitely be discussing it. I don't think we're gonna be voting on it right now, but that's fine. It'll come up. Thanks, David. Okay, public questions or comments? No, online, Eric, anyone online?
Hillary Montfred, her hand up.
Hillary, go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry, trying to raise my hand here. I just wanted to make a comment with respect to the public engagement piece of the OCP. Kids are running wild here. Okay. I think that it's a great opportunity, like if we're doing an OCP, it's just a great opportunity to bring the community together and really engage in dialogue, not just going beyond just engagement, and really creating dialogue between residents in the village. So I think that we should really dig into that and look at that as an opportunity here to create those connections. And steering committee is one method, but there are other methods that are being utilized more and more in the industry of engagement. And one of those things is a residents assembly, also called citizens assembly. But sorry, my kids are going crazy. But effectively, it's kind of a bit different than a steering committee in that it's a really randomized civic lottery process. So it really can create, take out some of that like strain or political or feeling like things are unfair or voices are not being heard. And instead it really emphasizes a just bigger, broader group of citizens that can come together and engage in dialogue and would have but anyways, it's something to I think that the village and their consultants should look a lot more into. Gibson's did the first citizens assembly in Canada for their OCP amendment a couple of years ago, and it was wildly successful. And being a similar small community, it's a great opportunity, I think, for Lions Bay to engage in that type of process as well and kind of go beyond the kind of standard engagement that we see as like a town hall where without proper facilitation, without a real plan, it can end up just, being a lot of loud voices sharing their opinions rather than really co-creating, which is what we want to see.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Hillary. We know you've got a vast amount of experience. We appreciate your comments. Any other residents?
I don't see anyone else in my hand up.
No? Okay, with that, motion to adjourn? Okay, second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
all right.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you all.